All right, let's go ahead and get started with this meeting. I know we've got a packed house here, and I know there's millions of watching it on TV. And I just want to say this has been pretty awesome to be able to sit in this chair and sit up here for the last 16 years. And thank you. And it's been a great honor, and I want you to know that. So we're going to move right into swearing in our new mayor and one of our new council members. Councilman Euler is out of the country, so we'll have to take care of that at a different time. But so let's go ahead and take care of this, and let's get the mayor to take over this job.
Leave them on. Leave them on.
No,
All right, raise your hand.
don't take fashion advice from Shane.
I state your name.
I, Mike Mendenhall,
Having been elected to the office of
having been elected to the office of
Spanish Fork City Mayor,
Spanish Fork City Mayor,
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey, and
obey,
defend
and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
I state your name.
Shane Marshall.
Having been elected to the office of
Having been elected to the office of
Spanish Fork City Council,
Spanish Fork City Council,
do solemnly swear that I will support,
do solemnly swear that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
No kisses.
Mayor, you got to take this. Well, now what do we do?
Let's get to work.
Oh, okay. All right, let's get to work. Thank you, Mayor. And I know we all somewhat eulogized you at our last meeting, and you're not even dead. You're still here. You're going to be around for a long time, and we're grateful for it. We expect the texts and the phone calls and keeping us on our toes. So we appreciate you. And we know if you don't do it, that Mrs. Mayor will, Cheryl will. So we appreciate that. We've got some other items of business, but before we do that, we're going to start our meeting with a prayer and a pledge that we always do. And so, Councilwoman Beck has the prayer.
Yep, and a couple comments. I just wanted to speak on behalf of our new mayor and council that We just feel extremely blessed as we're entering into this new year to serve our community. I know I haven't talked to you, but I know from our hearts we feel like we're the lucky ones to be up here and represent your wishes and desires. And I know we each do things very differently, but we each do our very best job. So we wish everyone a happy new year and thank you for the opportunity to serve. And I'll offer a prayer. Our dear Father in heaven, we come before thee this evening with gratitude in our hearts to live in such a great community. We're thankful for the many years, hours, and time that Mayor Steve Leifson and his wife Cheryl put in to make our community what it is today. We thank him and we pray that thou would bless him and Cheryl as they move forward, that they will be prosperous and blessed. And we ask a blessing upon Mike Mendenhall and his family, that he will be able to carry this mantle as he serves for the next 4 years, and thou would watch over and protect his families, and that thou would bless them with those things that they stand in need of. We pray that as residents of Spanish Fork, that we will open up our hands and look out for ways to serve those in our community, for service opportunities for our neighbors, and continue to love those we come in contact with. We pray for a watchful eye over our first responders at all times, that they will be safe and protected. We pray for these things humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. We've asked Councilman Argyle to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That'll lead us to public comments. I know we have some special guests here too, but we'll invite public comments first, and then we'll have council comments that I'm sure a lot of us want to report on our duties, but also say some things. But anybody from the public that wishes to come up today and speak to the mayor and council. I thought Dale was coming. He's not. Okay. All right. So with no one at the public comment, we'll go to council comments. But before we start council comments, we have a very special guest that we have known for years and years and years here in Spanish Fork, and I know we all have something to say about him before he calls it a career. And so we'd invite our outgoing chief, Chief Steve Adams, to come up here and take the next couple hours if you want, Chief. And
honestly, Mayor, and by the way, that feels good to say. I could take a couple of hours. Very grateful for the time that I've been able to serve this community. And it truly started years and years ago as a child growing up in this community. I was born and raised here. I bought my plot, so I'll be buried here. And that feels good. It really does feel good. But you know, my mom raised me well. My dad was a hard-working man, and if it weren't for them and my siblings, and then my adult family, my lovely wife, and all that she has done for me, my daughter, her husband, and their children, then this would all be for naught. They have made me the man I am today. And because of them, I've been able to serve the community I hope to the satisfaction of others, definitely to my personal satisfaction. Sure, I haven't been perfect, just like you mentioned. Nobody's perfect in anything that they do, but we do our best and we try to help others as much as we can, again, with Councilwoman Beck's comment of service into the community. But I wanted to be a cop growing up. I got off track a little bit. When I got off my mission, I went into the computer field and programmed computers for a little while, but that did me well when I got back on track. I had a scout leader who I admired, and he was a cop here in town and then for the sheriff's office. And he actually helped me get my first job. I went past his house on my motorcycle, probably speeding, and he whistled at me, and I stopped, and he says, "Hey, there's a job opening up in Mapleton. Today's the last day." So I buzzed up there on my motorcycle, and I filled out that application in blue ink and scribbled like I scribble. Got an interview and got the job. Just a few short years later, Pete Bell is his name, and I, and now the mayor, then a patrol officer, mayor over in Payson, Bill Wright. Short few years later, after I became a cop down here in Spanish Fork, we're in a canal pulling 3 people out of a car that had tipped upside down. I think there's a purpose in life. If it weren't for Pete being my scout leader, going back to my mom and dad being who they are, my wife being supportive to me, and then all the other things that laid in events for that day. There's many other days. I've got memories that'll carry me a lifetime of things that I know that have been put in place so that hopefully the right thing can happen. Right choices could be made. And honestly, I didn't do any of the things that I've done in my career without good help. Supportive family and good help on the job. There are ideas that are brought up and things that were done while I've been with Spanish Fork since 1988 that didn't just take one hand, it took many hands, including council members and mayors like you. And the officers and the firefighters and the EMTs that we have, as well as the good citizens that we have in Spanish Fork. Working together and being one in purpose, that being the servants that we should be, gets us to where we need to be. And I am so grateful for the opportunity that I've had for the last 37 years to serve in this capacity. Again, the memories will last a lifetime. I don't, and I mentioned this in the email to you earlier when I decided to resign, that sometimes those memories are going to make me cry, but most times those memories are going to make me smile and be happy. We see the good and the bad that's out there, and we accept it all and do our best to make the right outcomes. But nevertheless, Mayor, Council, I've loved serving with you and for you and the community. And I'm not done serving. I'll serve in some other capacity some other time. But this next week will be my last day as your chief. And I really appreciate the privilege of doing so. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief.
So at the risk of maybe talking too long, maybe.
It's a new mayor.
Go
Take all night.
Well, there are some residents though that may not appreciate, maybe if I talk too long. But let me just add some comments about our chief, and Steve's been a fantastic comrade in our community, serving us so well. But maybe one of the greatest tributes that I can pay to him as the leader of our public safety department is the quality of people that we have working in that department. It takes a great leader to find great people. It takes a great leader to keep great people and to keep motivating them, especially in a profession that's difficult. So one with such high stress, high emotion and challenges, and then wrought with public challenges like we've seen through the last 3 or 4 years. And through it all, the morale of our employees in the public safety department, the quality of the people that we have is as high as it's ever been. And there really is one linchpin to that, and that is Chief Adams. And it's not for any one characteristic that he has, but for many, the collective that he is. And so we're very grateful for you, Steve, for what you've done. And I will add that it really isn't just him alone, that his wife is his equal. And just like Mrs. Mayor has done so much good for the community, Marla has been just the same. I've known her for many years as well in different areas of different capacities, and she has the exact same personality as Steve. And so to have that dynamic duo serving our community as they have in loud and quiet ways, if you will, and seen and unseen ways, has been a real blessing to the community. We'll miss you, Steve. I'll clarify one thing. He's not resigning. He's retiring. I want to make sure everybody understands it. He's not resigning. He's retiring, and we're so happy for him that he has that opportunity. We'll miss you tremendously, and just have loved you. And we're excited that you can see, if you can see on the camera, you can see him holding his grandkids. And I think that's a next adventure for him that he's really excited about, and they're lucky to have him. That mutton busting champion's back there too, right? There he is. That kid I think holds the arena record in distance and speed. Maybe score as well. Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, just wanted to add from our perspective as staff, our thanks to Chief Adams, and we're looking forward to the opportunities that he will have, but we'll miss him as well. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Seth. We have a couple of, members of the public. Call him a member of the public. You want to let your councilman go first that helped hire the chief? And
Please state your name.
No, I would never let him go
Please
first.
state your name.
Please state your name for the
3-minute timer too, please.
Please.
Holy cow! You know, this is what happens when I leave. I believe my name is Steve Leifson, so that's great. I'm going to turn my phone on so it goes off. It'll be donuts. Hey, I just want to say everything that Seth had and ditto that. Chief Adams has not only been a great chief, he's been a great friend. And, you know, it's nice to be able to work with people like the chief, who's dedicated, who's looking for the best interest for our city and for our people. He is truly a great leader. He has solidified our police force. You'll notice in a lot of police forces over the state and over the country, they all leave. We have very few people ever leave our police force when they come to Spanish Fork. They want to come here, and when they do come here, they stay here. And that's because the atmosphere that Chief Adams has created here for us. And as a former mayor and council, he's been a delight to work with. Whenever I needed something or asked something, he was right on it, and he would take care of it. And he went through some tough things that we had to go through in this city, things that a lot of people shouldn't have to go through, but he was able to do that with dignity and did a great job. So I just want to let him know how much I love and appreciate him and his service and all he's done for the city. Thank you,
Mayor. Thanks.
I can't believe he gave him the microphone back. He just finally got rid of it. Before I start on Steve, I want to start on you. I didn't know I had an opportunity to get up and talk about you. But anyway, Mike, thank you for being a good mayor already. Thank you for running. Thank you for being a great councilman. You know, thank you for being part of our city and helping it. Many years ago, I asked Mike to be part of Fiesta Days, and he told me no. And I says, no, why? And he says, I don't have time. And I says, listen, I'm in a bishopric, and I'm on the city council, and I'm running 30 guys right now, and you're telling me you don't have enough time to be on the Fiesta Days? You're on Fiesta Days. And he goes, okay. And I said, there's another reason why. Because one day you're going to be the mayor. That was many years ago. And things have truly come forward. Just a few words of advice. Continue to do what you're doing. You know, love your people. Walk in service, and they'll follow you and guide and want to do things with you. You know, if you will be a service person, not a leader, but a service person, people will run to be with you and serve this community. Love this community with all of your heart. Remember who you are and what you represent. Remember to serve all of the citizens of Spanish Fork, every one of them. I know you can't please them all, but try to serve everyone. Remember that your employees and how important they are. You know, they are truly the biggest asset that we have in Spanish Fork. So remember to take care of them, and they will take care of us. You know, make our city, continue to make our city safe like it always has been, like Steve Adams has done. Same way with you, Shane. Thank you for all your service. You're awesome. You know, I've watched you, you know, on planning commissions, and you're doing your homework right now, and thank you for all that you're doing. Continue to do that. Same way with you, Stacy, Brandon, Chad. Continue on. Make our city the pride of progress of what Mayor Leifson has truly done for us. I love Mayor Leifson too, and I appreciate all that he has done. He has truly been the greatest mayor we've had, as far as I'm concerned. And I want you to continue on with that. And Mike, if you are even half as good as Steve has been, you're going to be a great mayor. Now, as far as Steve Adams, this man I love. I've watched him grow up. You know, I played basketball with him and softball and many other things with him. He's always made me look good because he was so slow in basketball that I scored a lot of points. But other than that,
Can I have a jet?
but other than that, that's the only weakness that I've ever seen. I've watched Steve as a city councilman, you know, as an officer and as a detective, and going to school and proving himself and making himself better at his calling that he's done. All he's wanted to do is serve our community and make it great and wonderful, and I've watched him do that. And then when he became chief, there was no other choice in the matter. Chief Adams was the #1 choice. There was no doubt about it. And he has served well and honorable in this great calling. But the other thing I want to tell him is he's part of my family, because as a citizen, you know, he came to the rescue and helped me in a hard case when my daughter disappeared. He was one of the great men that came forward, and with another great man and the FBI agent, together they developed a great team and found clues and did wonderful things that brought my daughter's case to trial and made it happen. And I just love him and appreciate all he truly did, all the hard and wonderful and long hours that he spent working on my case and doing the things that he has done for me and my family. I love him, and I appreciate all that he's done for me. And I guarantee one day when Steve passes away and they put him in that plot up there at the cemetery that he says he has, he'll go to heaven, and there'll be a little red-headed girl waiting for him to give him a big hug and a kiss to tell him how much she loves him and appreciates all that he has done for her. Thank you.
Well, we have some guests, but I know a lot of us would like to say something about Chief Adams too. We've got a next week that we can get a picture and present you with some stuff. But if we'll start council comments, we'll go through council comments, and then we'll bring our special guests that are here tonight. You okay to wait just a minute, or you okay? All right. And we'll start council comments with Councilman Argyle.
Thank you, Mayor. No comments or don't have anything to cover as far as the city, but just like to real quick, of course, say thanks to Mayor Steve Leifson to his long service, and then also say thanks to Chief Adams and his family. To come to the end of a long career and look back, as you said, memories, good, bad, and you'll have them the rest of your life. But to reach the end of that career and look back and say, I've done my best. Steve, you've done that. Our city, the awards we get for being the safest city, it makes me all the time so grateful to say This city is a great place to raise and safe, great place and safe to raise your family. And it is because of you, Steve, and your efforts and your dedication to your job and to this city. And that goes along with what they said with you hiring individuals. I remember many of them times you said you looked at them, this guy's the best that we looked at. He's done this, he's done that. I always appreciated that when you had them comments about the person that you hired. And most of them are still here and still working and still doing the job that you expected them to do. I know your family. I know your dad. He was a truck driver for a lot of years, George. I knew him. So you come from good background. Thanks for your service. Marla, thanks for your service. I know it takes a lot of behind the scenes. Him being gone many times, that's maybe ended now. I hope he stays home a little bit. So good luck to you in your retirement, and thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Councilman Gordon?
Thank you, Mayor. I too appreciate Mayor Leifson. Wonderful, wonderful time that we've spent together, and wish him and Cheryl well again. And I don't have anything else to report on any of my other committees, but I think it's neat to look around the room and see all these kids that are in here that are, you know, like Richard mentions, they're the future. Kind of like what Mike, when he was just a little wet behind the ears, you know, and Richard whipped him into shape. And so it's encouraging to look out here and see all sorts of great future leaders, and to hear Chief Adams' grandboy down there saying, "That's my grandpa," it just about melts my heart right in half. And one of the first things I did within the first 6 months, I think, of being elected, it's been a little over 10 years ago or so, and was sitting on the interviews for Chief Adams, and I agree with Richard Davis. We made the right decision. We watched the morale change in the department. It was positive. It was Steve just loves people. It doesn't matter if it's a high-profile case like Kiplin's or something small. It matters to somebody, and that mattered to Steve, and he would show that love and concern for everybody. He involved the mayor and council in a lot of fun training things. He took us to shooter trainings and drive trainings, and I'm the only elected official up here that can say I've been through taser training. And if you're having a bad day, I encourage you to watch that video. It'll liven you right up. It'll make you laugh for sure. So Chief's always involved us. I jokingly would say Steve is like the most spoiled director, but that's not the fair assessment that you're spoiled, because Steve, if he needed it, it was justified. And he's always had, since I've been involved and since he's been a chief, a great mayor and council that's worked hand in glove with, if you needed officers, we gave them to you. If you needed tools, we wanted to give those to you. And so saying you're spoiled was not the right move. You knew what you needed for your women and men that kept us safe, and you did such a wonderful job with that. So I applaud you. I congratulate you and Marla, and just love and appreciate you guys for all of your service. So thank you.
Councilwoman Beck.
Thank you. So I have several things to report on. The first one is going to be Fiesta Days. And Nick Porter is going to share our 2022 Fiesta Days logo. We decided to extend an invitation to the community to design our logo. And the winner could choose between 4 rodeo tickets during Fiesta Days and dinner, or 4 VIP tickets to the Pyro Musical, which would get you front row seats at the Pyro Musical and dinner, as well as some t-shirts. And so the winner, let me back up. It went through the executive committee. We would receive an email, we got all of the logos, and we narrowed it down. Once we narrowed it down from the 23, it just got smaller and smaller. And so our new logo, Nick, is by Amy Career, and I don't even know, Amy Career, stand up. We love it, come on up here. because we're going to give this to you. In fact, you take it off and show everyone.
Okay.
Isn't that so cool? It's so retro. So, Amy, one is for the city and then one is for you to take. And we did have to adjust the colors a little bit because we're going to have blue polos and t-shirts. So the colors got adjusted, but that was the one I voted for. So I'm
Can't
super
clash.
glad that what?
The colors can't clash on our polos.
No, the colors.
I'm glad.
So congratulations, and can you just tell us, like, is this your background? Is this your line of work? Was this just fun? Come tell us in the mic.
We need you up the mic, sorry.
Yeah, I know you don't want to sit and talk, but just tell us a
No,
little
it's
bit.
fine. So years ago, we lived in South Dakota, and I was really bored living in South Dakota. And I self-taught myself Photoshop, and a career came out of it. So anyway, I'm more of a freelance graphic designer. I work for a couple of companies that I'm contracted with. I saw the challenge. I actually set a reminder in my phone, and my alarm went off 6 o'clock the day that it was due, and I had it in my head. I'm like, I gotta get this out on paper, turn it in, and that was that. Yeah, and I actually didn't know until yesterday. I'd missed the emails, I'd missed the phone
I'm
calls.
trying to track you down, girl.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, great, okay, awesome. Anyway, that's it.
Well,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
And enjoy the rodeo.
yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Thanks.
thanks, Amy. The Warners, Mark and Mindy Warner, our Fiesta Days executive chairman, and I went and extended an invite to our grand marshal, who is Lynn and Joanne Jones. They were humbled and teary. Joanne shared with us that her parents were the grand marshals long ago. So they're just beyond thrilled, and we were excited to extend that invitation to them. The next thing is Miss Spanish Fork and her royalty. They are going to have a winter party this Saturday. It will be at the Shalon, and it's for girls and boys ages 4 to 10. Hot cocoa will be offered, and cookie decorating. It's $5 for each child. So you can go to Miss Spanish Fork's Instagram to get more information, or just kind of copy this, and it'll be from 11 to 12:30. So thank you, Miss Spanish Fork, for arranging that. And then the library, real fast. Some people don't think we need a new library. Let me tell you a little story that Library Director Scott Aylett told me on New Year's Eve. Do you all remember the snowstorm we got on Friday? And I don't know who would have wanted to leave their house. But Scott said there was a New Year's Eve party at the library for the kids. 150 people showed up, you guys, for a 12 o'clock party. I don't even know if we were shoveled out of our house by noon. And it was just shoulder to shoulder down the aisles. It was a full house. And so thank you to our library staff for hosting it, and thank you to the residents for going out and being willing to participate. If you are interested in doing more things at the library, their calendar is on the city's website, and I just wanted to throw out some things. There's like toddler time, kinder camp, chess club, crochet circle, financial literacy, beginning guitar class, book clubs, and coding classes. So there's a lot of things being offered at the library besides books. So if you want to find out more, go right over to the library or get online. And speaking of the library, the still for our new library was delivered a week or so ago, and today those beams started going up. So it'll be really exciting and fun in about a year and a half when we can start having bigger celebrations and events there. Okay, and then next is Tabitha's Way. Back, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, well, let's start here. In November, a group from UVU, artists, offered to do a rendering, a mural for Tabitha's Way. And this is Wendy and Mayor Mendenhall. We had a little celebration of their mural. It's right next to Tabitha's Way, and just all the good they do and the love they share in this community. That was a neat event. And then on a couple Saturdays before Christmas was their annual Christmas basket giveaway.
Oh.
Brandon, we missed you in that picture. Shane, do you remember the temperature?
I remember that picture, portly, yeah.
Yeah, do you remember the temperature?
was cold.
When I went down in my truck, it said 12 degrees
Yes,
down Center
12
Street.
degrees. It was cold, but it was such a neat opportunity. There were 350 Christmas baskets given away that Saturday. And when I texted Wendy today asking her about the final numbers, she told me that that day a grandma that I should hurry and read it, she had called Wendy to thank her about the opportunity. She said she has a lot of health problems and lives with her daughter, who is a single mother of 3 children. She spent 30 minutes with her voice cracking with emotions, expressing her deep gratitude for the food. So these type of events help so many in our community, and we're grateful for them. And they just said they're always looking for volunteers and food drive opportunities. So if you're able to support them, just reach out to Tabitha's Way. And then I just want to wrap up real quickly with thank you, Mayor Leifson, for the good time. My last 6 years with you will always be memorable, and it's been so great to get to know you and Cheryl, so thank you. And Chief Adams, I still remember the day you sent in your retirement, was it a text or an email? I got it on a Sunday morning, and it emotionally hit me so strong, I got teary. And all I can say is, I won't remember a lot of things you did, but I'll always remember how you made me feel. You have been amazing, and it's been an honor to work with you. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilwoman Beck. Councilman Marshall.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Why do we have to end on the emotional side for me to be next every time? I will end up doing that, I'm sure. First of all, Tabitha's Way was awesome. If you had a chance to, that was the funnest day of December for me. Christmas was great, but standing there in the cold and helping people, it was great. The people that volunteer every day are wonderful people, and if you can give your time, please do, because it was a good time. I'm going to give a shout out to the snowplow drivers in our community. It is a thankless job every single time it snows. No one goes out and says good job ever, 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 ever. All you hear is, why'd you push snow in my driveway? You're welcome to push snow in my driveway every single time you drive by my house. Please do. That means the snow's plowed, and I appreciate that greatly. So thank you for your help, your efforts. We couldn't get around without you, so I appreciate that. To the old guy in the back, whoever that old mayor was, it's been 4 months of pleasure. It was awesome. Thank you very much. I learned a ton. I've watched from afar for a long time, and I learned a lot, so I appreciate the time and effort. Chief Adams, you said you started in 1988, and I'm pretty sure there was a time somewhere in there where I looked in my rearview mirror and it was you. I didn't like you then. You have done a tremendous service for this community, completely. So over the last, year or two, there's been some chaos across the country with police forces. Never once did we worry about Spanish Fork City, never once. Never once did we think about defunding anything here, because it had the leadership in place to make sure that we were going to be set. And that was you. And we have a lot of things to be grateful for, your leadership, your service. Like Richard said, it is about service. You're in this job to give back to the community, and that's what you did for 37 years. You give back, and we greatly appreciate it. I know I do. I know my family does. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your family, because it's never one person, right? It's always the whole collective. So thank you very much for your service, and we greatly appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Leifson, thanks again. I know you said it publicly and privately, but again, thank you so much for your mentorship, your friendship, your leadership. Councilman Davis is right. You've been just the greatest mayor this city's ever seen. So if I can do anything half as good as you've done it, we'll be in good shape. And I've told a bunch of employees today and a bunch of people out in the lobby, just like you told me, don't mess it up. And so that's my goal, is to not mess it up. So thank you for building that foundation. And we're gonna miss you and Cheryl in our weekly and monthly meetings, but we know we'll see you around, and we love you. Chief, I tell you, I got emotional for a couple of different reasons when you sent that out to us. Was like, how many more people are going to retire before I become the mayor? We were on a roll for a while there of,
So you expected?
Well, no, I didn't expect it. It was a surprise, and it was a role that I thought was bad. But just like a good leader does, you've set your replacement up and ready to go to work and do good by our citizens. And that's our job, our number one job as elected officials, is to make sure that our community is a safe place. And so you've always been on top of that. I thought Gordo, I mean, with his poem abilities, I thought he'd have something a little bit better than that. But the only thing I could find was say goodbye to your tension and hello to your pension. I found that online, but it works, right? Because your kind of line of work still somewhat has a pension if you've stayed in it as long as you have. And so congratulations to you. Many memories that I have of you. One of the fondest ones is when you invited us up to your house, and you and Marlo were so gracious to have us over with the police force, and we got to know, you know, those guys and gals on a personal basis, and that was huge for me as an elected official. And so thank you for opening your home. That the memories of the tough times, the tough things that you've had to make all of us aware of at some time, was just your steady hand of leadership, but of compassion as well. Really made those feel like we were gonna get through them and we were gonna be okay. Instead of setting off alarms, it was a calm hand of leadership, and so we're gonna miss that. And I know we've got somebody good to step into that next, but we sure love you, we miss you, and this city will always be indebted to Chief Adams for taking the reins and making this police department what it is. So thank you. I'll move on to my comments, and I thought about what to say, and try to keep it somewhat brief. But what came to me was to highlight the good people that we have here as a team. Mayor always reminded me that, hey, when you get into this office, you don't vote anymore. You see how the vote goes and everything. And I couldn't be more proud to serve alongside with former Councilman Davis and Dart before this, but you guys since then. And so I'm excited to serve in this capacity. I thought just a little bit about, in case you don't know it, the millions of people watching, again, a few things about our council members. Councilman Gordon, I have a lot on him, but I'll cut it short.
You're gonna do one?
Yeah. One thing I really like, and I think the public enjoys about Councilman Gordon, he speaks plainly. He gets that from being raised out in Lake Shore and that area, I think. But he speaks plain, and sometimes he's funny too. But he gets right to the heart of an issue, and people appreciate that. I appreciate that when he does that. So I'm excited for him to continue that. Councilwoman Beck she's intelligent and pragmatic. She is her heart is in service, but it's also in making people. It's funny you said how great Chief makes you feel, but the way that she makes the public feel, and the way she makes us feel, is truly a gift. And so it's something that I know you'll continue on doing, but it's a trait that really brings a lot to this council and this body. So thank you. Councilman Argyle, the first word that came is historian with Councilman Argyle. He's got him. He's pretty sharp. He's got it on the top of mind when we're talking about people and places in Spanish Fork. He brings it up, and he goes back to times before I was born and talks about it. He's a committed family man. I know he loves his family. He speaks of them often, and they speak very highly of him, and that says a lot about who he is. He serves quietly. He does some things in the city with his family that isn't a public thing, but he privately gives back to the city and has in a lot of ways. And so I appreciate your service and appreciate that. I know you'll continue to bring that strength to this body as well. Councilman Marshall is an engineer. I thought about just stopping at that because people know an engineer. Is that all you need? But there's more to Shane than just his job, what he does for a career. I know he cares deeply about his family as well. You girls, you should see him, if you haven't already, see him talk about you, and that's the way to get him. he speaks about emotional. Well, all we have to do is bring up his girls, and he gets emotional. But I know he loves his family, and what comes across always has about him is he feels a responsibility to make a community as good as what he enjoyed growing up. And wherever his girls live, he feels that it's a responsibility. Maybe he can convince them to be home more than gone, and he wants to make this place for him a great place. So thanks for that. I think that's a great trait. Councilman Euler, I'll give a little bit more about him when he's back, but what came to mind there was royalty, not Miss Spanish Fork royalty, like the crown and the sash, but Dave Euler's son, as in Councilman Euler, will be a great addition to Spanish Fork. The history that we get from that, from a man that served as in Seth's role as our city manager, his father for 40 years, will be something that is great. And when him and Angela return, we'll roast him a little bit more. But in the end, I'm humbled. I'm humbled to serve in this role. I'm humbled to serve as the 47th mayor of Spanish Fork. I'll do everything that I can to make you proud of the service rendered. Amber and I were looking at some pictures the other day of when we first took an oath of office 8 years ago, and I didn't have a beard, and I certainly didn't have any gray hair. So now I got gray in my beard, gray in my hair, and I think it's maybe Jagger more than anybody that gave me the gray hair, but probably some of the city service too. I've told a story to some people about the 36th mayor of Spanish Fork, which was my mom's great uncle, right, Mom? Uncle Ray Gohl served in the 50s and 60s as a mayor of Spanish Fork, and the one story I get from that was that they were leading some cattle from the west side of town up to the east bench to a corral there that was usually before you went up the canyon. And he did that on one day when a road was just paved. And so somewhere on the west side of town, the road was paved, and you know what a herd of cattle will do to a paved road. And so some of the people weren't happy, and one of the residents came out, and my Uncle George, my mom's brother, tells me this story because he was on that cattle drive, and says a woman came out pretty mad, a citizen mad that there was, now this new paved road, and there was, a mess on it. And she yelled, "Hey, I know the mayor, and I'm going to call. You guys are going to be in trouble." And the Mayor Gohl there was on horseback and pulled up to her on her porch and said, "I'm right here. You can talk to me right here." And that story always, when I think about that story, it leads into pride and progress, what we are. I'm sure Mayor at the time there was proud of our heritage, of our agricultural heritage. But the progress of paving roads was something that was being done, and the two had to intermingle. And there was maybe a difference of opinion there, but they came together and got over it. And for the love of Spanish Fork, we can certainly get over a lot of stuff. I heard a saying the other day that a man never walks in the same river twice, because the river's never the same, and neither is the man. And I think that's what's in front of us as members, citizens of this great city, is that, yeah, we hold on to things in the past that we love about our community, and we always can, but it'll never be the same. Every addition to it makes it change just a little bit, and it can change in really, really good ways. And so I promise that the next 4 years, that's what it'll be. It'll be a place that we're proud of, but a place that will definitely lean into progress too. We'll be a safe, healthy, and happy community, and I know that's what this body wants too. And so that's what you'll see going forward in Spanish Fork, and we'll get to work. Like Councilman Gordon said, we'll get to work, right? We'll do it. So thank you, Mom, Dad. Thanks for everything. I love you, and Amber and the kids. Thanks for everything, and keeping everything taken care of, so we can all serve in this capacity, and I owe all that to you, being raised well, so I appreciate it. The next thing's really cool, so don't turn off the TV if you thought that was, this was the best thing, but I'm really excited for the next guest that we have in council chambers, and And we'll try to do this more often. I don't know how many more times we'll ever have this happen in our community, but we will highlight people doing awesome things in our community. And one of them is named Morgan Beckstrom. So we have a little thing that we'd like to play, Morgan, before we bring you up here and embarrass you even further. But thanks to SFCN, to Pete and Travis for putting this together. And you can see why Morgan is here with us today.
My name is Morgan Beckstrom, and I've rodeoed ever since the junior high, 5th and under. I was really happy that I got to compete at the KK Run for Vegas Junior World Finals. So I've always told my mom that I wanted to qualify for it, and it was super exciting just seeing everybody get there, and everyone was just signing like autographs and everything, and it was like you knew that this was the big thing, that everyone came to win and do good at it. So you had some pressure on you, but it was really good. The first round, I just really wanted to keep barrels up, and it was a really small pattern. I've never ran in a small pattern like that. I was second the first day and second the second day with 13.9 the first day and a 13.8 the second day. And the short go, I knew that I had to keep my barrels up to be in the average, because me and this girl had ran the identical times pretty much the first 2 rounds, and we got to the short go and I was just had a lot of pressure on me, but right when I went in the alleyway, I knew that Slingshot was going to do her job and do it for me. So I just went in, took a deep breath, and just let her go, and she came out and she ran a 13.8, and I was super excited. I was really nervous, like my grandpa said. He goes, when I came out of the alleyway, he said, "That's the most nervous I've ever seen you." And I was like, yeah, I've never been that nervous. And I didn't know why I was that nervous. I don't really usually get nervous, but after I started running, I just felt like I just need to keep my barrels up, and no matter what, as long as Slingshot was okay, I was going to be good. So it was really good. I've been riding Slingshot for 2 years, and those 2 years have been probably the most amazing years I've had, and she's just done really good, and she always puts 100% in every run, and she always makes sure that she does good, and she's taking care of herself and taking care of me, and I'm just really happy she does that for her and me. She is 9 years old, and her dad is the Goodbye Lane. He's our stud. My grandma and grandpa own him, and we've had him for a lot of years now, but we've bred a lot of horses to him, and we're riding a lot now out of him, so it's really fun. My grandpa has always said that I'd fit Slingshot, and he's always said that I was a really aggressive rider, and she needs an aggressive rider, so I was really glad that I got to ride her. And I know every time she comes out of the alleyway, I always thank her, and I'm just really excited that I get to ride her. But yeah, she's a fun one to have. So I won the trailer and the saddle. I won a buckle case, and then I won a Louis Vuitton purse, and then over and under, and then like a hay bag, a halter, a breast collar. But I didn't know that I was going to win the trailer, and my sister was sitting in the stands, and I had got all my other prizes, and they all came down, and my mom started videoing, and I thought she was taking pictures of me, and I kept looking over at her. And then they announced that I won the trailer, and I had no idea, and I was just in total shock. But it was a really great feeling. Running the horses is the best thing. It's like the best feeling you could ever feel, and I just always loved that. The prizes and money, that's just a plus on it, but the riding is more important. And rodeo is a really big thing to people, and they work really hard, and they work pretty much their whole lives to get to this point, and it's just really great. And as long as you keep working, you're just going to keep getting better and better.
So we have one of the fastest cowgirls in the world with us today. Come up here, Morgan, so we can embarrass you a little bit more. This is Morgan Beckstrom from the Beckstrom and Jarvis families. And if you don't know those families in Spanish Fork, you're not from Spanish Fork, right? So tell us, Morgan, how did this go down, and why do you do this?
Well, my whole family has always rodeoed, and they've always done it, and my grandpa has always told us that we had to start running the horses, and we started running them, and ever since then we've just been running them, and it's been really good so far, so it's worked out.
Nice. Now tell us who your mom and dad are, and your grandma and grandpas.
My mom and dad is Mike and Jody Beckstrom, and then my grandma and grandpa is Terry and Gary Beckstrom, and then my other grandma and grandpa are Mark and Linda Jarvis.
All right, perfect. Any questions from the council that you want to ask Morgan? Be ready for anything.
It was Yeti, right? Yeti
Yeah.
was one of the sponsors. They gave you a bunch of Yeti stuff too. Louis
Louis
Vuitton.
Vuitton,
You
did they
should have
have
seen
something too?
Councilwoman Beck. She was halfway asleep and then she heard Louis Vuitton. As did Councilman Marshall's wife. They both are big Louis Vuitton girls.
Yeah.
So 13-8, that's the winning time. That's what
Yep.
puts you over the top, and
Yeah.
that's fast.
Yeah.
Fast. Yeah. How many people did you compete against?
Around like 70.
7. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is down at the what do we call you? A junior finals?
World finals.
Junior World Finals champion.
Yeah.
of barrel racing.
Yeah.
Beat out 70 people.
Yeah.
And took home a lot of hardware. When I talked to your mom on the phone, she was like, "This adds up to a lot of money for." How old are you? 18 years old?
No, I'm 16.
Oh,
Yeah.
16-year-old girl from Spanish Fork has made more than most people make in like 2 years, right?
Yeah.
In just running down there. We were honored to hear about that. We were down there, during the similar time with the city for NFR and signing some of the contracts up for Fiesta Days Rodeo. I'm sure we can plan on seeing you in the future in the Fiesta Days Rodeo, I hope.
Hopefully.
Is that a goal?
Yeah.
Okay, good. We hope so. And I know your sister Gracie, she barrel races too?
Yep.
She's
She's at a barrel race right now in Arizona.
not on Slingshot, on a different horse?
No, she's on the other horse.
What's his name?
Earl.
Earl. Slingshot and Earl. I thought that was pretty funny.
Sounds like Mike names the horses.
Yeah. And Caden, what does your brother Caden do besides win state championships on the Dodgers, the Mustang League Dodgers, back in the day? What does he do?
He helps me do all the horses and rides with us, and he does a lot. But yeah, really glad to have him.
He's a good kid. When I was bragging up the Dodgers way back in the day that we were winning, it was because Caden was pitching and hitting. So Caden's a good kid too. But Morgan, we wanted to honor you, and you are. I didn't know what to put on a certificate because you got kind of all these cool labels. So I just put certificate of recognition presented to Morgan Beckstrom, Championship Cowgirl of Spanish Fork City.
Thank you.
We can't say it any better than that. We'd like to give you this and a couple other things. Brandon referenced Yeti because it's the Yeti Junior World Finals, right?
Yep.
Sponsored by Yeti. And I don't think they gave you a Spanish Fork Yeti.
Oh, yeah.
We got you a Spanish Fork edition Yeti. And what else did we get? We got. Okay, so we also got included in the bag here. I did pick up from. They said they know you very well and see you in the store quite often. But Cliff Brimhall at Reams Western Outfitters said we need to give that girl a gift card and have her in here all the time. Now you're a celebrity, so they'll probably like you in there a lot. So go into Reams on Main Street. They wanted to give you a gift card and get you some gear there.
Okay.
And then this was cool that this happened. We hope you would. We see you got a buckle case, but we hope that either if this doesn't go in the case, that it goes on you for maybe the next time you're
that's
in
cool.
a rodeo and barrel racing.
Yeah.
And this is the Spanish Fork belt buckle that says the home of pride and progress on it. So we're
you.
grateful for you representing Spanish Fork so well, and we want you to continue to do that.
Okay.
So thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you,
and
guys.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Nope, you're good. You're great. That's why we got you.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Morgan. Good work. Thank you. Great work. We'll top that in 2022, right? Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Work.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Tom. It'll be hard to top a lot of that in 2022, but
I think we need that many people to say the pledge allegiance.
I know that
was
that
like
resonated really
super
well.
powerful.
Oh,
Pledge of allegiance. It'll be a long night. Yeah.
That's Jody right there.
And now they're gone.
And now they're gone.
Now it's empty. Mom and Dad, you may as well go home too. That's all, we're going. Okay, yeah.
Like, how do we get out of here without making a scene?
Good luck.
This is the best part of the movie, the best part of the night, right here.
Shane
Says the
Shane
person
just
that
got real excited.
I'm like, let's do this. UTA? Yes.
just been waiting for this. We will, yeah, we'll try to do that. We've got great people in the community of Spanish Fork, and so anytime that they accomplish something great like that, or even not as great as that, we're going to make sure they're here.
You asked me to make sure you don't make any mistakes on your first council meeting, and you added 2 years to a woman's life.
Yeah.
And that, so far, you're off to a really bad start.
When you're 16, you think it's
18.
cool to be 18.
Oh,
That's true.
Yes.
That's legit.
okay,
Haven't messed up yet.
fair enough.
Wait just a minute. It's about to get messier.
All right.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for being patient. We appreciate it. That's our next agenda item for City Council is number 6, Spanish Fork 101, and the Utah South Valley Transit Study presentation. That's you guys. If you can come up and let us know who you are and educate us.
Mayor and members of the council, it's delightful to be with you tonight. My name is Mary Delamar Schaefer. I'm the Regional General Manager for UTA in Utah County and a Utah County resident. I would like to say about this study, Spanish Fork played an important role in leadership in making sure that this study happened. A couple of years ago, we had a meeting with all the cities in South County, and the cities were like, when are you guys going to bring us a train? And we're like, well, we have to do a study. And they're like, what do you mean you have to do a study? You've been talking to us about it for 20 years. We'd never done a complete evaluation of what's the right, what we call high quality, high capacity transit system that we should have in South Valley.
It's weird, huh?
It's weird, right?
This is weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Just
about
look
you
that
up
way.
there. I usually have them here.
Yeah, just for the record, I worked on this project with Mary and the team for the last.
Yes, you did.
Year
So
and
we're
a
like,
half,
what are you
so.
doing up there? Get down.
It's weird.
So if he has questions about it, he'll
If I have questions, something's wrong.
Then there's something really weird going on. So there's some important steps that we have to go through in order to qualify for federal funding, and this study helps us meet those requirements. And we do something that's called a locally preferred alternative. That's a federal term for saying we all agree on where the transit should go and what type of mode or what kind of transit we should have. So we're going to try to go through some detail really quickly unless you stop us and tell you how we studied that and what we looked at. And then another key part that's really important to us is that we make sure that it's a very collaborative and open process. I think a very unique thing about South Valley is that people know how to work together. The cities know how to work together. And that's unusual in this country for cities to be able to come together and agree, and our cities certainly did agree. So we'll share what that outcome was. I think if you go to the next couple slides, let's see what the next one is. There it is. Okay.
There as well.
So, oh,
That should work.
goodness sakes.
do it.
I can do it all by myself. So here's the study area from Provo to Santaquin. And we only own right-of-way on a rail to Payson. We don't own to Santaquin, but we did do the complete study. And that will be in the far-off future about how do we get to Santaquin when we bring a train in. I don't even want to go through any of this detail with you because this is your life, is that you all know what's happening here at the heart of the growth And we know that we're just going to be really different. Very, very soon, we're different now, every day. The growth that's happening to our communities is phenomenal. I feel like when I go up to Salt Lake, to our headquarters, I feel like I'm the lady like from Back to the Future ringing the bell. I'm like, growth is coming, it's Utah County, and they're like, huh? I'm like, no. We are going to be the size of the greater Salt Lake area in the next 25 or 30 years, and you all certainly know that better than I do about the details of what that looks like. So it's important for us to look at all these objectives and think about how do we meet our future needs. We have an opportunity to do it right in South Valley. That means get transit in the right place so it's ready at the right time. And I'm going to stop there and turn it over to Claire, who was our consultant. And she's like a mascot for Utah County, right? Yep. She loves it so much. She does. And she'll quickly walk you through what we did and how we did it. Thank you.
Okay. I'm the mascot. Mary is my hype woman, so I'll try to keep the energy going here. I get to cover all the boring slides, so sorry about that. I'm going to go through them quickly, so please stop if you have questions. Councilman Marshall, lots of questions. So like Mary said, this is an important part of kind of getting this study going, is determining what the right transit investment is and going through a process that's pretty typical of any major transit investment, and that is calling the alternatives evaluation. And so we have this little funnel diagram. Fancy way of saying is we start with a lot of alternatives, and through additional learning different things about each alternative and doing some detailed evaluation, we screen things out to what makes the most sense, and that is arriving at our locally preferred alternative, which is the outcome of this study. A lot of work went into this, and I know you guys don't want to be here for like 3.5 hours, so I'm going to go through this, like I said, really quickly. We started out with a really broad range of alternatives. We looked at 4 different types of transit, so we looked at commuter rail, that's front runner, bus rapid transit, that's like UVX, that connects Provo to Orem, light rail, so that's similar to tracks up in Salt Lake City, and then express bus. We looked at 3 different transit corridors, so we looked at an alignment along I-15, we looked at the rail corridor, which Mary alluded to earlier, and then we looked at an alternative that connected some of the arterials on the east side of I-15. We did kind of a high-level screening of those. We didn't get into real super detailed yet. We just wanted to kind of screen out those that really perform the best, that are worth diving into. And then we selected 3 alternatives that we moved into what we called the detailed evaluation. And this is where we really dove into the details. I'm happy to answer detailed questions. I'm not going to get into it here, but I have a slide at the very end if you're really curious. But we did look at a commuter rail alternative that followed that UTA-owned corridor from Provo to Payson, and then continued along a rail corridor from Payson to Santaquin. We looked at a bus rapid transit alternative that operated in that same corridor, and then we also looked at another bus rapid transit option that used both I-15 and the rail corridor to try to save some costs and just look at a different alignment there. All of these alternatives serve the same stations. So in Spanish Fork, this station is just west of where the future Center Street interchange would be. And so all these alternatives would serve that. Based on our detailed evaluation, the team recommended moving forward with commuter rail. One of the big factors is that you have really great travel times, not just in South Utah County, but because you can connect seamlessly at Provo, you can travel up to Salt Lake County, travel to Lehigh, wherever you need to go without a transfer. Great travel times, that means great ridership. And so that is something you can't get with BRT, and so commuter rail just performed exceptionally well for that. Moderate capital costs, like any of these projects, they cost a lot of money. And so kind of moderate in our range. Slightly higher O&M costs, operation and maintenance. However, return on investment, so when we look at cost per rider, we balance it all out. Commuter rail, because it does just generates such great ridership, the cost really pans out well for commuter rail. So we recommended moving forward with commuter rail and built that into our locally preferred alternative, which we ended up separating into 2 parts. And so what we're recommending is the first part is constructing commuter rail from Provo to Payson on that segment that UTA owns right of way. And then from Payson to Santaquin, we're recommending moving forward, trying to implement an express bus service while the communities and UTA can work to preserve corridor and get ready for a future commuter rail investment, but the timing isn't quite there yet, and the cost to construct that segment is just much higher since UTA doesn't own any right-of-way. So that's our formal, locally preferred alternative recommendation. We've shopped this around to the public quite a bit. We've gone to all of the communities, and we've gotten quite a lot of comments, over 1,000 comments. I've done a few of these studies, and I've never seen feedback like this. Educated, informed, useful. It was really great. So appreciate all of the intent and education your public has provided into our study. It was really, really useful. Usually we get a lot of comments like, hey, can you fix that traffic light over on Main Street? And we're like, we're on study. So we got a lot of great comments, a lot of strong support for a front runner, really wanting to see that frequent, reliable service. A lot of strong comments on implementing really high quality development at station areas, utilizing that opportunity to generate economic development. And I don't want to steal Mary's thunder because she's the local bus wizard. But we saw a lot of interest in expanding local bus service, really getting people to the commuter rail service and other locations people want to go. And when you have questions, local bus, Mary is your woman. So. And you can see we have a map of where we got comments from. So really up and down the corridor, we got a ton of great feedback. Just some of the details, frequently asked questions. The estimated capital cost escalated out a few years is about $550 million. We usually share costs and range because we don't know a lot about the project quite yet. We haven't done enough engineering to really give a firm number, so we always kind of share this in ranges until we know a little bit more. O&M costs about $8 million a year. It's a number we're probably going to be able to scale down a little bit once we fine tune that. And then when we look at ridership, we showed kind of current year, which is considered 2019 in our forecasting model, 2030, 2040, 2050 ridership, just to give you a sense of how ridership is increasing at all of the stations in South Valley. You know, Springville obviously is really raring to go. Spanish Fork development's turning on a little bit later, as well as Payson. Ridership really drives these investments, and so this is something to keep an eye on. You know, MAG, Mountain Land Association of Governments, updates the regional transportation plan. They're updating it next year and trying to reflect kind of the increasing pressures of growth that's actually happening right now. MAG is thinking that this ridership is likely to go up, and it's likely to happen a lot sooner than what we're seeing now, just kind of based on the patterns that are going on. In terms of construction and implementation, UTA is advancing the study into environmental, and so we never commit to a timeline until we know a little bit more. But as the project continues to advance and funding has really been secured, then we'll actually have a better sense of when it makes sense to construct the project. And some of the things just to keep in mind, especially here in Spanish Fork, some of these interchange improvements up and down the corridor are really going to be critical to supporting the project. So here in Spanish Fork, the future Center Street interchange, and also the reconstruction of the Payson Main Street interchange. So those are really important supporting investments to make sure that we're in the ear of UDOT to understand that those are big priorities. Ridership, keep saying ridership because it's really important. So density around stations is important. It's a scary word, we know, but it doesn't mean Salt Lake City density. So UTA is actually undergoing a TOD study for transit-oriented development next year, and that's really to look at how to tailor the right station area density, the right number of jobs, housing around the station. So look for that from UTA in the next year. And just some of our next steps. Didn't update this slide. We were supposed to come out in December, but we didn't make it. We are going around to all the cities asking to approve the locally preferred alternative. That's an indication for UTA that it's worth spending additional money to keep the project going. Like Mary said, having a lot of support for the project is really crucial to continue to make progress. We'll send out some final documentation. The environmental study is going to be kicked off this spring, I believe. And Todd can talk a little bit about that next. And then keep an eye out for the UTA's TOD planning process. And this is really a great milestone. So with that, turn it over to
Council members, Mayor, thank you. As Claire mentioned, my name is Todd Provost. I'm with UTA as the Director of Capital Development. First, Trustee Holbrook, send your best and congratulations, Mayor.
Thank you.
And typically we have Mayor Acerson with us, our board member as well. He's come to all the meetings. He had a conflict tonight, sends his apologies. So I want to make sure, share that with you. As Claire and Mary mentioned, great efforts to date. This exercise has gone on for about a year and a half, 2 years to get us to that locally preferred alternative. There are some important big picture steps next. So Claire mentioned going into an environmental process. We are putting together procurement documents to bring that consultant on board. They will help us with the environmental study and help us with preliminary engineering. The preliminary engineering will help us funnel down and tighten up those costs that Claire mentioned and take that range from that broad, bigger range and hopefully refine that to something that's either a lot more finite and hopefully a lot smaller. But that process will happen during preliminary engineering. We'll then go through final design, property right-of-way acquisition. We'll try to identify funding and how we secure that. We do and are actively looking at all sources for revenue and funding. So whether that's federal or state or local, we are actively pursuing all avenues. We continue to do that every year as well for every project, and this project's no different. And then hopefully, soon we'll be doing some testing, some operations, and ultimately some groundbreaking. Now I know everybody wants to know when. We would love to be able to say in a year or 2 or 3, but these big projects take a long time. They can take upwards of 10 years as well, but we have to get started. And the LPA, the adoption of the locally preferred alternative, is that real formal starting process for this project. We're excited. Mary mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that we've worked very collaboratively together. I commit to you we will continue to do that. That's the culture that we have. It's problem solving and working those issues together so that you know what you're getting at the end of the day. You're not surprised and you're part of the team. So we're excited to continue to move forward. And with that, I think that's it. So I can try to answer questions, but I'm either going to defer to one of the technical experts behind me or to my right.
Not me. Todd, where in the prioritization process is this one ranking with UTA right now?
Well, we try to be agnostic, council member. We really do, but I know from a community perspective, from a MAG perspective, this is, if not the top, one of the top projects, the second project. So it is very high. It is an important project for UTA. It's why we are putting those environmental documents together. It's why we're continuing to push this project. We see the value, you see it in the data, you see it in the information. So it is a big project for us as well.
With the environmental studies, I know with the previous rail, there was an extra rail built where you own now the existing railway and right-of-way. Of course, that would have to be, will be redone, but will that help that environmental? Because you're not going to really be impacting anything different than already there.
We just don't know yet. So we plan for the worst and we hope for the best, but it is too early. So we are planning a full-blown environmental study. Ideally, we know it's a rail corridor. We know there's trains running through the rail corridor, but we need to go through and do our due diligence.
Any other questions?
Oh, thank you, that's a lot
I have
of work.
some, of
Oh,
course.
you do not.
I do.
You made
But-
the document.
No, Claire did that. So my questions, these are probably the answers I know, but I want to talk about this a little bit as a council. So there's a slide back there that talked about density, and Claire mentioned it's sometimes a scary word in Utah County, which I agree with. But that density is going to drive ridership, which is going to drive investment by UTA. And I want to make sure we all understand that it's not just Spanish Fork that has to talk about land use. It's Pace and Springville as well. And if we're not working collectively together, this is not going to go as fast as I think we would want to go. So I think we need to reach out to our sister cities and talk about how do we do this in a way that fosters the project instead of puts the project in the wrong direction. The ridership numbers do look good, and we can make them look better if we do the right thing from a land use perspective. So I guess it's not much as a question, but Mary Todd, from a city council perspective, what can we do to help this along?
You already gave the answer, and thank you, Councilmember. Working with the other cities, we have funding at UTA to do transit-oriented development studies. They only are as good as working with the city and the city's input. So I know South Valley gets together and meets, the mayors meet and discuss ideas, and if you really want this project, then you have to talk about how you're all going to grow together in a way that will support it with ridership, because ridership's the name of the game. The last thing you want to do is build a train that you have to later on shut down. We know that's not going to happen because you're going to grow. But growing in the right way at the right place, which is around the station, is really critical. So I think you certainly don't need to hear that from UTA. You need to talk among yourselves and figure out what makes sense for South Valley. While I have a minute, I just want to say thanks to Dave and Seth for all the work they put in on this study, for poking and prodding us along in the right ways, and the former mayor as well. All of them really showed great leadership in making sure this got on the table and got in front of you all. So thank you.
You know that 2,000 of us are driving to Provo and riding the train, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I used to ride the train. I rode the train, or the express bus or the train for 9.5 years from American Fork to downtown Salt Lake before I worked for UTA, and had many friends from South Valley who would drive up to Provo to get the train. Yeah.
Who do you think on the council is the most recent that's rode the train up to Salt Lake?
I can't even begin to
Come on, just take a guess.
imagine.
Take a guess.
What makes you think it's you?
Not Shane.
It's not me. I know it's not. I'll tell you, it's not
Who
me.
last rode?
Chad.
I was right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had that look on your face of a commuter. I know that look.
So I'm on the staging with the Tabernacle Choir.
Awesome.
Ride the train.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful
It's-
thing. Thank
yeah.
you so much. I appreciate you
So,
writing.
It's quick and easy. The only thing is the one time that I needed to ride it was a Tuesday night when it snowed 8 inches in Salt
And there's
Lake, and I
trouble.
was in my truck, and the whole time it's like, why did I do this?
I know,
Yeah.
right? I know. I'm with you. I've done the same thing. But the train is a lovely thing. The other thing that's really wonderful about the train is you can start your workday on the train, which is what I used to do. So the second I get on the train, I'm on the Wi-Fi and I'm working, and I have protected office hours, and it makes really good use of your commute
And I
time.
just listen to good books.
That's better. I'm a little jealous. I would do that on the way home.
When I found that
Always.
out about Councilman Argyle, I volunteered the services of our local cable channel to follow him
That's a
on that
brilliant
trip.
idea.
And
Did
so
they do
we'll give
it?
you that. We'll give you that footage. It's
Are you
forthcoming.
listening, Travis?
Oh, we need to put that on our social media.
It'll be
We totally
forthcoming, but it'll
will.
be
That'd be
him riding the
beautiful.
train up to.
Do you sing on the video?
We can arrange that. We can arrange that.
I'm on the staging crew,
Oh.
not the singing crew.
Oh,
I have to
okay.
make that differentiate.
The tone of your voice, that's such disappointment.
We were ready to be serenaded.
Yeah.
Can you put those ridership numbers in perspective for us? What are the boardings at Provo? That's probably one of the highest stations you have.
2,500 today.
2,500 today. So, all right. So over time, that's the kind of ridership that we're expecting from South Valley is where we're at Provo today.
And Utah County loves Front Runner like nobody's business.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. Next to North Temple, the most used station on Front Runner is Provo.
The other interesting is a lot of inter-county rides. There's a lot of commuting, don't get me wrong, but Lehigh, Orem, Provo are big ridership stations.
If you ever want to go a tour on Front Runner, I'd be happy to take you. Please let me know.
Oh, I'll let you know. I've never been on it.
I'll take you.
We know
Yeah.
some folks.
Okay.
Yeah,
Get that footage too.
yeah, we would love it.
Travis's thumbs
We're-
up.
we're-
Fun.
I'll tell you,
Thank you.
yesterday was, a resident said, and knew that, we were being sworn in today and stuff, and said, can you we really liked how Spanish Fork was 20 years ago. Can you
Oops.
just,
That cat's
and
out of the bag.
the response is kind of, I think I got it, maybe the quip from Councilman Marshall was, show me which 20,000 people you want to kick out of the city. Because that's how we could go back 20 years ago. And that's not realistic, and it's not realistic for the next 20 years either. We'll grow that much again. And so So we appreciate studies like this because it's very useful for us, but useful to our citizenry too, to see what we're planning for, where we're going. The League of Cities and Towns has said it best, and we repeat it up to our legislatures often, is plan regionally while acting locally.
Yep.
And so the word local in here is
Very
a
important.
big deal. And what Councilman Marshall referenced, planning with our neighboring cities too.
You know, we talk a lot about our Main Street and finding a solution to it, and Chris has been looking at solutions off the grid. This is a really good solution to our problem on Main Street, and so we have to keep this in the front of our minds. It may not be implemented by the time we're out of office, but it's going to be up to us to make sure it gets implemented sometime. So just keep pushing it.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
Appreciate
Thank
your
you for
time.
coming.
Thanks.
Is this something we're adopting in the future, that a final is going to come to us? This isn't,
So today, there's a locally preferred alternative.
On your
it's
agenda
down
later
here?
today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, as an action.
I was going to say, can we move that up over there while they're here?
Oh,
You do that?
wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
will you check?
I'm-
Yes, we can. Can you, if
It
you
is.
know which it is?
It is new business, item D.
Okay, we're going to fast forward to new business item D, and then we're going to fast forward to one other new business before we get to consent items. So, Councilman Marshall, it sounded like you were trying to get a,
I will make the motion, but I want to make sure that I disclose the fact that I did work on the project. They are going out for another procurement for environmental work. Our firm won't be on that procurement, but we are part of a team that may help us with that selection. So just full disclosure, I'm part of the team, have been part of the team, but we'll be happy to make a motion if
And that was before your time.
true. I was on this team before I ran for city council, for sure. So as long as Vaughn's okay.
good enough?
Okay. With that then, I move to approve Resolution 22-03, declaring support for the locally preferred alternative for the South Valley Transit Project.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion on this motion? Okay, it's a roll call vote. Let's start with Councilman Marshall.
Aye.
Councilwoman Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
That passes. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you all.
Thanks for
Appreciate it.
coming. Thanks for coming down. Okay, while we're in new business, we've got Commissioner Sakovic here from the Utah County Commission, and we have item F that we asked him to kind of stay over for. We'll ask Vaughn and maybe Dale, Parks and Rec Director, to speak to this, and then we can get you home a little bit earlier, Commissioner Sakovic, if that's all right.
He just saved you another hour.
At least. He's going back to the office.
Well, I'd like to thank Commissioner Sakovic for being here and just for his role in this process of negotiating this agreement. And probably without him, we wouldn't be here tonight. So thankful for him and for the other commissioners and for our own staff here in the city. So to give you a background, about 15 years ago, the city and the county entered into an interlocal agreement to share the fairgrounds, to allow the county fair to be held here in Spanish Fort. So both parties kind of brought different pieces of property to the site, and last year we amended that contract to acquire additional property known as the salvage yard, but that had some environmental challenges, and so there was provisions in that addendum to provide for environmental cleanup through the voluntary cleanup program. But the parties now want to amend that to refund the county the money that they brought to the table for that acquisition of the salvage yard, and then release the city from its obligation to do the voluntary cleanup program. And then while we were at it, we addressed some other issues within the agreement. I'd just like to point out a few of those terms. So in the agreement, Section 2, it refunds the county their investment in the salvage yard. In Section 3, it releases the city from having the obligation to obtain a DEQ, certificate of completion, for the voluntary cleanup plan. It says then that the parties will manage the property together, and that will require written consent from the other party if any property is not used for the fairgrounds in the future. It does provide for the sale of a portion of the salvage yard up to 1.5 acres to a third party, but it would have reciprocal parking and access so that they could share the fairgrounds property for their business, and likewise the fairgrounds could share their parking for when there's the county fair or when there's the Fiesta days or other fairgrounds needs. Also, it provides for the Public Works building to be on the salvage yard property, or if that doesn't work, elsewhere on the fairgrounds property. The county is going to convey to the city a parcel that's identified in the original agreement, and that will happen within a few days of entering into this agreement. And then it talks about the user dates, where it provides the county exclusive use of the fairgrounds complex for 5 calendar days, and that would be the first week in August, including the first weekend. But would provide enough time for us to clean up after Fiesta days to allow them to have the county fair. Moving on, the operation and maintenance expenses are capped at $250,000 that the county would have to pay to the city for that. If it exceeds that, then we could ask the county board of county commissioners to increase their contribution. Let's see if there's anything else big. Oh, the improvement advisory board, it gives the complex advisory board a 6-member body that they make recommendations about the master plan, the annual budgets, the operating plans, and the complex facilities. And so that 6-member board consists of 3 members from the county, 3 members from the city. At least one of the members appointed by the city and the county shall be an elected official. And they can each have alternates as well. So that hopefully will help that board run smoothly as they make their recommendations. And that is most of the major features of the amendment. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to do the best I can. I also wanted to mention Rob Moore. He's my colleague at the county. He's really helpful in getting this agreement drafted and prepared as well and negotiated.
Thank you, Vaughn.
Okay.
Any questions for Vaughn? Okay. Commissioner Sakovic, we've had you here all night. You want to come up and say anything about this? Again, we appreciate your help.
It has been a pleasure to working with you, Mayor, and Mayor Leifson previous, and then with Mr. Vaughn here and the city attorney, city manager. It has been very useful to have the one-on-one discussions. The group settings worked to get some of the initial ideas out of the way, but to refine it to where we needed to be, where we both understood where we're coming from. It was immensely helpful to have one-on-one. I was in trouble for having breakfast with you on Thanksgiving morning. I should have stayed home, I was told. But that worked
By your
out.
wife or a constituent?
I got to keep quiet. Hopefully none of the mayors will say anything about it, but it was very helpful to have that breakfast with you, Mike, and to work out some of the finer details and have that face-to-face discussion. The Spanish Fork Fairgrounds is a treasure, a jewel to the county. And this last Utah County Fair was perhaps over the top on attendees and excitement and enthusiasm. And it was a great way to get out of the 2020 year and do something real, so to speak. And people just loved it. And the use that the county has of the fairgrounds throughout the year has been ongoing, and working with the city has been a pleasure. So I appreciate getting to this point. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate the partnership in the fairgrounds, and the citizens can know that salvage yard that we've started to park in a little bit last year, we're going to get to a point where we can use it fully, as well as some additional ground in the back that really fully protect the fairgrounds for a long time, and make us still that home of pride and progress, if you will, of making sure we have a successful county fair and successful Fiesta days and all the other events that happen down there. So we appreciate that. Thank you, Ms. Shepherd, for staying as well. Appreciate your help. Okay, this is, if there's any other questions, not any other questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Just Mike, real quick,
You bet.
Mayor. This has been a long, the battle's not the right word, like just discussion with the city and the council and the commission. Appreciate the leadership, Commissioner, that you've shown getting us through this. It really does take that that leadership on both parts to sit down and say, okay, what are we trying to accomplish? Let's get to the end of the row of this thing and make it happen. So we appreciate that. I think that a citizen could pick this up and read it 15 times and come up with 15 different answers to it. It's a very complicated document. It takes a while to get through. We're not going to talk about it in great detail here tonight, but it is a good document for our city. It puts us in a good spot with the county moving forward and a good partnership with the county. So I think it's a good thing for us, and I'm happy to see it move forward.
Perfect. Thank you. Anything else? Any motion?
I move to approve Resolution 22-04, authorizing the mayor to execute an addendum number 2 to Utah County Fair Interlocal Cooperation Agreement.
Second?
Motion and a second. Motion by Councilman Gordon, motion seconded by Councilwoman Beck. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, we'll go to a roll call vote. Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
Councilwoman Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Marshall.
Aye.
That passes. Perfect. Thank you. Thanks again.
Did you say you wanted to talk about one more item before?
No, I think that's it. Under new business, we can go back to the regular agenda. All right, we'll get back to consent items. Number 7, consent items.
Motion to approve the consent items.
Second.
Motion to approve the consent items by Councilman Gordon, second by Councilman Argyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent items approved. Now we're to number 8, public hearing, ordinance 01-22, amending 4.04.020, merit service. Who's speaking to us on this?
I'll talk to you.
Okay.
You'll have me. The recorder and the treasurer are appointed by the governing body, but they're not at-will positions. Our ordinance, however, indicates that they are, or at least, or should be at-will employees, which means an at-will employee is somebody that serves at the will of the governing body and can be dismissed without cause. But this update would amend the code so that the recorder and treasurer are merit service employees or for cause employees, meaning they can only be terminated for cause. And therefore, because of that, it also would remove the requirement that they have to have an employment contract with the city, since there wouldn't be a need for an employment contract because their positions would no longer be at will. Do you have any questions about that amendment?
I was just curious if, to your knowledge, it's ever changed. I mean, has it just been because we've made changes in the past to other positions.
Sure.
In this same realm. Has it ever changed, to your knowledge, just since the created?
I'm probably not the best to talk about the past.
Maybe, or do you know? I'm just curious if we ever really made a change to the original organization or how we have it structured.
Yes.
It's been changed prior.
Yeah, in fact, this is the second half of a change you made maybe 6 months ago.
Okay.
We made what we thought was all the changes, and then there was kind of a hanging, I can't say a hanging chad, that dangling chad, that may be offensive to you, but there was this was missing from that. So this is a cleanup for what we did. I remember we were in the High Chaparral, so it must have been
At that time.
sometime in the last
Yeah.
year, but yeah, we've made changes to this. It's probably in my time, starting maybe 2012, we made some changes, and we made some more again a few years later. So we've been tinkering with it a little bit. We used to have a really large number of at-will employees, and all of them reported to the mayor, or they didn't report to the mayor and council, but you fired them. So they reported to the city manager, but then the city manager couldn't fire them. You did. It was really awkward, and it was just a vestige of the past. And so we've been slowly working through when we find them, fixing these. So long answer to your question, yeah.
That's exactly the answer I'm looking for, and I support this because of that. I mean, I feel like, you as the city manager, you really work with the employees every day, and when there is an issue, you bring it to us, and we collaborate, and then it really is on you as their employees. So thanks for that clarification.
So the at-will employees now are the city manager, assistant city manager, and then the department directors. That's really it.
Okay.
Perfect with this change.
I like that these two positions can be consistent through any political change, right? That the political winds don't just come in and change the recorder and treasurer. Consistency in both of these spots is important for a city, so to me, this makes a lot of sense as well.
Great point.
Thanks.
Thanks, Fawn.
Thanks, Fawn.
Anything else?
Motion to go into public hearing?
Second?
Motion by Councilman Gordon, second by Councilwoman Beck to go into public hearing for this ordinance. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are in public hearing. Anybody want to speak to this? The recorder and the treasurer, do they want to speak to this? It's about you.
Let's pass it.
I move we go out of public hearing.
Motion to go out of public hearing, second by Councilman Argyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are out of public hearing.
I just want to know, will the minutes say that Tara offered her opinion?
If she's doing the minutes, yeah. We're gonna add it to the, we're gonna edit the minutes if they come over or not. Okay, so if there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion on this.
I move to approve ordinance 01-22, amending 4.04.020 merit service.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Beck, seconded by Councilman Marshall. This is a roll call vote. Councilwoman Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
Councilman Marshall.
Aye.
That passes.
Do you
Okay.
randomize that as you go through that? I'm just
Well,
curious.
I'm not, I did there, but I'm not sure how it shows up on my screen. It shows up the same way all the time?
You don't have to reveal all your secrets to him.
Oh, okay. Well, he asked, but
This is.
I don't know how Mayor
I'm-
Latham, I don't know how Mayor
That's
Latham
your
did it,
second
Shane.
mistake tonight,
Yeah, I
Mike.
don't know how he did it,
Don't
but
Listen.
Wizard of Oz him like that. Jeez.
I don't want
That's
you to
why his
get.
laptop's turned this way.
Yeah.
To me, not you.
Okay.
I can see. You can ask me, but not him.
All right.
okay?
Fair
I don't
enough.
want you to be caught off guard.
Fair
You need to be
enough.
caught off guard, not
Gotta
just following
understand the
somebody.
pecking order
Yeah.
here, Shane.
Just following somebody. Okay, item B, under public hearing, we have a public hearing about the transportation element of the general plan and making amendments to it. Chris Thompson.
Okay, there's a few items here.
A few.
A lot of them are kind of trail related. This first one is, let's see, it's kind of rotated weird. But you can imagine, north is up now.
If north is not up, I can't
I
follow.
know, yeah.
It is
North
now.
is up now. There's Canyon Road and Highway 6.
Okay, this is actually 3400 east in the city, it's 2400 east in the county, so that's a little confusing, but there at the end of Canyon Road where we have this road taking off to the north, we want to adjust the trails plan to not follow the railroad track right at this point and then not continue around here. It's kind of a minor change. I'll just keep going and if you can stop me if you have any questions. Let's go to the next one. Right now, we have a trail coming up Main Street on the east side, coming from Salem. It connects into our river trail right here. And so our trails master plan actually had it on the west, but since it got built here, we're moving it to that side. Thought it'd be good to.
So we're changing the plan for a trail that's been built.
I was looking at Shane to see what he thought of that.
That is a consultant's recommendation right there.
I thought Shane would like that. The other thing is, at one point, this road used to kind of be planned to go through here. That plan has gone away, and so with that, the trail's gone away from over here as well. So those are the two. Well, there's one other change, and that is this property right here was de-annexed from Spanish Fork City and annexed into Salem, and so we took out that trails plan as well. So any questions on any of that? All right, going on. And a lot of times when you get down to a final design on a project, it makes a lot more sense to put the trail on one side over the other, and so actually quite often we will build it on a different side and then we'll update the plan, and so it's not as uncommon. Here, same thing. We are showing the trail coming up on the east side of Main Street all the way to 4th South to the fairgrounds area.
where we plan to have a trail going east and west along the mill race. And then at that point, the plan is to have some sort of like a bike lane or something like that as we improve Main Street. So, next. On Main Street, you know, as Main Street becomes more and more congested, there have been certain pressures to widen it and make it 7 lanes. And as we've looked at, say, State Street through Orem, the feeling was that's not how we want to solve the Main Street problem. So we're looking at some other options. We like the current 5-lane Main Street, and so this master plan actually holds it at the 5 lanes. Now, we're not ignoring the congestion on Main Street, and we're working hard for like the interchange at Center Street that Shane was talking about, commuter rail, and maybe some other north-south corridors that can be emphasized. And so, but we feel like our Main Street is very well defined at 5 lanes, and so this kind of holds it at that.
Because I think that reflects our community much better than the 7-lane section like you mentioned. I think it's important what you just said. We're not giving up on Main Street whatsoever. We're just trying to find a different alternative to widening Main Street. And that'll be reflected in the plan as we move forward. This is a major change to our plan, and I think it is the best one in here. Like, this is exactly what we need to do as a city. Put a stake in the ground and say, we're not going to go wider. We're going to find a different solution. So I appreciate this, and I'm looking forward to the conversation about what we do with the width that's out there. So, thank you for this.
Yeah, I really agree with that. Okay, next item, as we work on the new transfer station here and a lot of development here, one of the things that we were able to do is place a sewer lift station right at this location. With that lift station, we could have ran force mains this direction all the way, or this direction all the way to this location, but found that it would save quite a bit of money if we could just run them directly straight to that location along what's called Dry Creek. And we've always had a trails plan that showed a trail going along Dry Creek out to Utah Lake, hopefully connecting to the trail that the county plans to circumscribe the lake. And so with this new plan for the lift station and the sewer force mains there, it's really important that we be able to access those sewer force mains to maintain them and get to them. And so we were able to, with less cost overall, build that trail as part of that sewer project. And the plan is to use that to access the force mains when we need to maintain them, but also get it built now and quickly. And we feel like this will be a really great trail, especially when it eventually makes it all the way to Utah Lake. So,
Are we there by fee, or are we easement?
Easement.
Okay.
So that being said, it provides another purpose. You'll notice some wetlands forming in this area. A lot of the reason for the wetlands is water would back up at these culverts here and kind of flood out these lands. We're replacing the culverts with much larger ones that should handle all the flow, won't back it up, but also this trail will serve as somewhat of a levee of sorts to allow us to maintain that Dry Creek and maybe prevent some flooding, especially as infrastructure gets built here. We won't want it to be flooded. So anyway, and then also adding one of the key parts of our trails plan, you'll notice on the existing plan that we try to show really definitely what side of the road we think it will be on. And so we created that clarity here for this road here, and so that trail moved to the north side of the road. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, next. Here along Canyon Road, we showed a roundabout here at 1700 East and one at 2300 East. These signals are becoming more and more imminent. We are going to talk to the council in upcoming months about our next MAG projects that we're going to apply for, which will influence these areas. One of the things about Canyon Road or SR 198 is it's a high truck load route, and so roundabouts aren't allowed on those type of facilities. We don't think it'll always be that way, but we think at least right now, especially where there's quite a bit of development already here, roundabouts are quite expensive to retrofit in. And so we are proposing to change those from roundabouts to signals, these two.
That is not the same technology as the other lights that will work with Station 62, correct?
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah, we do that with all our signals, and it seems to work out good. We're kind of working through, learning how to use that, but it works good.
I think it's important to have that consistency across the corridor.
Yeah.
The unexpected roundabout after a signal is.
That would be weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a good point.
Okay, next item. We've kind of already talked to you about this a little bit, but as we updated our models and we put some emphasis on this new interchange here at Center Street, which is really critical for the commuter rail, which was just discussed. This road here, which is developing the name of Leland Road or Leland Parkway, is becoming more and more emphasized. It goes all the way down into Salem, eventually will likely connect to the state road, 198. And so this will become a much more emphasized road. It connects 900 South, which is, as growth occurs on the west side of I-15, just more and more, this intersection started receiving more trips. And so our last kind of study of this area showed that 5 lanes were needed from 9th South all the way up to the new interchange. And so this changes the designation of that road to a 5-lane road.
So would this, Chris, eventually connect and service like South Salem then?
Yeah, so.
North Salem, I guess?
Yeah, so at 8,000 South, it crosses into Salem at what they call Beat Road.
Okay.
But we went and met with Salem, and eventually that could very easily connect all the way to the state road down there. And
You
so
could take some of the Salem traffic off of our main street and put them out.
yeah, and that's it's good to point that out because that's a huge emphasis. We're trying to get as much traffic away from our main street as we can, and we're hoping that this can draw a lot of the development on the west side of Salem up to I-15 through here, as well as Volunteer Drive coming here and then out. So I think that could help Main Street quite a bit.
Okay, thanks.
So will you have roundabouts on 5-lane?
Oh yeah, yep. We have one on a 4-lane over by the neighborhood Walmart, and it's 4 lanes south and 5 lanes north, and so it seems to work pretty good.
Okay, so, and that's, you know how I feel about them, big. So why here? Will this be because of what develops here in the future? Because there's nothing coming out right here right now, and there's no roads going, you're talking one way.
That's a great question. So the last interchange study for Center Street that we had done to govern how the properties should develop in this area actually showed that the off-ramp for I-15 should start a bit earlier and actually connect to this road and land here and then go up to Center Street. And so this is actually the merger of the off-ramp and this road. Now, is it feasible to put a roundabout here? If it is, it works well, traffic-wise. And it has worked well in St. George in very similar situations. But if it doesn't, it's a lot easier to downgrade a roundabout to a signal than it is to have a signal shown here and then try to make it into a roundabout.
Okay, thanks.
So, okay, any more questions about this? Okay, and then the next one, it's very interesting as airplane technology takes off, no pun intended. We have a situation where the big planes are a lot lighter and they can take off on a shorter runway. And at one point we were very concerned that we wanted to make sure we could have a really long runway to here, but the more we look into it, the more likely it is that our runway is at the length that it will need to be for the rest forever. Now, we're not just making that decision based upon a small amount of data. We've actually hired JUB to do a full-on study as our airport engineers to look at that in great detail and get back to us. But in the meanwhile, we do not want any development in this area to be surprised by the fact that this would be a very important route as it goes all the way down to Elk Ridge, believe it or not. And so we're putting that in, and then if the runway study shows something different, you might see a jog in it. But that being said, we think it's very important, especially as development and annexations are coming in this area, that this get added back in. It was in before. We took it out probably about 9 years ago when we anticipated the runway getting a lot bigger. But it's now looking like we might be just fine with
So you'll have a jog in the runway?
That would be something.
My gut feeling is, if we can't get a roundabout on the runway, we'll probably jog the road.
Yeah.
Probably jog the road. There's a couple other changes. One is instead of an offset intersection, we cleaned that up. We don't want any offset intersections on that major of a road. And then one of the things that we've learned with our many dealings with Union Pacific is do not plan any roads right next to railroad tracks or any intersection. So this road right here we just pushed over. There's an existing road right here. This is 10th North. This is where Wasatch Pallet's going in. We have a bunch of industrial here, which already has the beginnings of this road. So we kind of push this and kind of split the difference with the railroad tracks. And then something similar here. The existing road comes really close to railroad tracks. We're kind of forcing it around the housing there so that it has the more than the minimum distance that UDOT and Union Pacific asked for railroad tracks. So those are two other changes there. I think that's it. Is that right, Nick?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions?
Thank you, Chris. Any questions on this? My only comment to this is, nice suit, first of all. Looks good. I like it. But this is something that I know we all get asked about, talked about. It's discussed in our city all the time, and we all live it too. We drive on Main Street at times that, that are tough, and that's what it is. But as Shane mentioned, which side of Main Street are you picking to knock over to make it 7 lanes? That's the alternative. If you widen it, get it that wide. And so to keep it 5 lanes, but these alternatives, I think is a great revision to the transportation master plan, and it should residents paying attention to this, and it's our job to share it with them as well, to see that we are planning for the future, trying to make their lives a little easier, all of our lives a little easier to get out to the freeway when we need to get out the freeway, because the majority of people are using our Main Street.
Yeah, people care about traffic. It's a big issue.
Well, that's why we give them Shane's cell phone number every time they ask about it. So.
That's a good idea.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate your work on this.
So.
Yeah. Okay, if there's no other discussion or questions, I would entertain a motion.
Do we have to do
Public hearing.
public
Oh,
hearing?
Motion to
excuse
go
me.
into public hearing.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Second.
That's what you meant.
Entertain a motion to go to public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Argyle and seconded by Councilman Gordon to go into public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're in public hearing. Okay.
Motion to go out of public hearing.
Motion made and seconded to go out of public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'll do it, sure.
We are out of public hearing.
Just further discussion, Mayor. I think there are a couple things that we need to keep our eye on, and as we interact with MAG and DOT, that Center Street interchange, that's the hinge point of commuter rail. Commuter rail doesn't go in without better access, right? So we need to make sure we're pushing that along. I know Chris is, I know Seth is. I think it's important. We don't want to lose sight of that. And as you start to interact with those folks over with MAG and our local House and Senate members, this is a project that we need to keep pushing hard. It's an answer to our growth problems, right? We can alleviate a lot of congestion by doing something like this, and it's important to us. I appreciate the time and effort Chris has gone through to put into this. It is a better plan today than it was, or it will be a better plan once we approve it than it was before. One of the reasons I ran is to figure out what to do with Main Street. It's a nice wide opportunity to do something to make a difference in our community, right? And drive people to it on their feet, and their bikes, on their scooters, or whatever it might be, out of their cars, shopping on Main Street, living on Main Street, kind of like I did when I was a kid. So I'm looking forward to having those conversations as we move forward, like I said. And any chance that you have, if you need help, I'm there. I'd love to volunteer to work with you on what we do with Main Street moving forward. And I probably have said something inappropriate.
Oh,
and now
no,
Seth's gonna correct me.
I'm just gonna add some important weight to what Councilman Marshall's saying. There is a place where staff communicates with staff, and we do that, I think, really well with UDOT. We've got a great relationship with the Region 3 team. From time to time, there is an absolutely important role that you as elected officials play that push these issues over the top. And so when those moments are, and sometimes they arise kind of quickly and you have to act fast, or other times it's a long push and a long haul. But just to what you're saying, there is an absolute role you will have to play, I think, to make sure that Center Street actually comes to pass. Because it is something that from time to time we get a feeling that isn't high on their priority list. Even though it's on the priority list, in terms of the staff, it's not. And so we're always trying to keep it up there, if you will, holding it up high on that list. And Chris and I were just having a text conversation during the UTA presentation, and Chris's biggest concern is if we don't have that Center Street on-ramp, UTA won't build a station there. And so is there a chicken, is there an egg, which one's first? And it feels like that interchange is at least the older brother or sister, right, the oldest sibling to that project. So your role will be.
How many years ago did staff start working with a business, and when we talk about hitting home runs as a community instead of singles, that whole, like working with Wasatch Pallet, was that 5-6 years? You know,
yeah.
How many years ago?
At least
we
5,
started
right?
to do that
Yeah.
and work together and
Yeah, and this project will be millions of dollars less because of that. Millions.
Right.
Yeah.
We should, at some point, quantify that millions of dollars and start working with UDOT to say, look, our contribution now is millions of dollars towards
Done.
this.
Yeah.
It can go up the priority list now.
I'd like to apply that towards this too and that. and
Yeah,
that.
I mean, we'll pick and choose where we want to
Some
apply it.
future
Sure,
projects,
but
yeah.
we need credit for it because that is some good foresight right there. And that is a
yeah.
home run.
Versus being reactive, right?
Yeah.
To a situation. Oh, we're now reacting to something.
Right.
Is never a good thing, right? And so being proactive, I'm really applauding staff and all your efforts, and that's awesome.
Another one, just totally off the rails from this, but as we consider a project to move railroad tracks, that's one we're being foresightful. And 5 years ago, we started preserving right-of-way for that to double track that between Spanish Fork and Mapleton up there. And that's another one that we'll need you to participate in, making sure that if that's going to happen, that will probably be in the next 3 or 4 months as we work with the legislature to get funding. But that one, that project in total between Spanish Fork and Springville may be a $40 million project, which is huge. But we can already see in project costs that we know are on plans that it will save $80 million. So it already paid for itself, in the sense of, look at how much money I saved, and with the arms full of shopping bags, right? But that discount on future things. But that foresightful thing really can accomplish a lot. But I just really want to stand up and say what Councilman Marshall's saying is absolutely critical. You asking questions sometimes, you being at certain meetings or whatever, will push a lot more than we ever actually can. So thank you.
I think there's a high likelihood that over the next 45 days, once the session starts, someone on this council or the mayor will get a phone call saying, what are the priorities?
Yeah.
Lay them out for me right now, because I have 5 minutes to go to this committee meeting to have a conversation about. So it's a big deal. There's money to be spent this session. We need our name on the list, and we need to bang the drum just like everyone else does. So keep it up there.
I've been to two MAG meetings since being elected, and both times they asked me where Councilman Marshall was, and I'm like, geez. But no, it's an issue for our city that is so big, and like you mentioned, Councilman Gordon, a long time coming and a lot of plays that go into it. But it's a heavy lift that we all need to help lift on to make sure we're top of mind for that funding, especially this session. And so there it is. We don't just meet every couple of times a month on Tuesday nights, but we'll be lifting up the legislature in those meetings. So again, there's our marching orders. Okay, if there's no other discussion or questions, I think we went in and out of public hearing, so I can entertain a motion.
I move to approve the transportation element of the general plan amendments.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Marshall, seconded by Councilwoman Beck. This is a roll call vote. Councilman Marshall.
Aye.
Councilwoman Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
And Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
That passes. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thanks, Seth. New business, item A, under new business, the 3400 East annexation, acceptance for further study.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The subject property here is located on the east side of town, basically north of the Quiet Valley project, the one that D.R. Horton's doing with the property that they purchased from the city a year ago. It's outlined there in the yellow, that image there on the right. Like has happened before many times and recently with the one other annexation that's in process right now in the city, tonight we're just here requesting that the city council accept this annexation for further study. In this particular case, annexing these properties is fairly important relative to just development proceeding in the area with some efforts that staff has made to get infrastructure out for the Quiet Valley development and some others, with some coordination that has happened with property owners in the annexation area. So relatively straightforward, relatively routine. The council acting tonight to accept this for further study doesn't obligate you ultimately to approve it.
Where's the city boundary currently?
On the south of this property, so
It's, okay.
this is in the city here. This is not in the city, and this will be Mapleton.
Okay.
Actually, I think it's already been annexed into Mapleton. They're on the other side of the railroad tracks and the state highway.
Is this property in the city?
I think it
That was
is.
part of the
Swift Creek.
annexation.
Okay. Well, I didn't think the Baum's property was part of that.
This kind of makes it look like this is the city boundary here right now coming up from the south. That's usually what that signifies. We can double check though. We can just turn on the city map. But there is still a gap between this property and other properties heading up towards Maple Mountain High School that we would assume, particularly now with infrastructure being brought to the area, likely will fill in just through the typical annexation and development process sooner than later.
Perfect.
So if this is just a study, you're going to conduct it, or does, I'm assuming, is it worth looking, sorry to blind you.
I shouldn't have looked.
Oh my goodness, I feel bad. Is it worth looking at the future annexation all as one, even if we act independently on this one triangle piece, just to see how it fits in the whole future?
To look at a scenario whereby perhaps we would just annex everything at this point in time.
And maybe we wait, right, but where does it fit in that global annexation?
Remember, the property owners are the ones that call that.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that we annex them, but how it fits into the rest of this property would be nice to know.
Yes, that would not be hard to do. It wouldn't be, not at all. I do think that this annexation here is a little bit unique.
It's not hard to do, is it worth doing? You can say I'm wrong, I'm okay with that.
You know, I think the city's already sent the signal that, in a couple of different ways, that we do anticipate annexing this area here and serving new development sooner than later. I don't remember exactly when. We extended the growth boundary out to include all of the properties up to our anticipated boundary with Mapleton. I want to say it was maybe 7 or 8 years ago now.
So that's all that's left.
But we've really already contemplated that this is, it right now is in the city's crosshairs, if you will, as I see it, as properties that are expected to see annexed and to see developed in the relatively near future. One thing that is unique about this is that this really, as I understand it, is not development driven. This annexation proposal has come about for some fairly unique reasons. So I'm not sure that land uses here necessarily are going to change as immediately as they typically would with an annexation afterwards. I don't know that factors really into things, but
overall, it would be helpful, I believe, to know what this land use is or would be compared to this over here, so we're not having two land uses that are not compatible.
Well, I hope that we can predict right now really accurately how that plays out over time, just based on the general plan. This area is planned for pretty much just one homogeneous land use.
Okay.
And that's I think, if we were talking about maybe differences that way, then I'd be quicker
if we were down in here, you would have some, it would make more sense to do a more global picture. But because this is all the same land use, all right, I get it.
We've always maintained the state density, right? In that larger. You know, the council's had opportunities to go different directions with that, and to date, you've been very consistent with that. So.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, Dave. Thanks. Any other questions about accepting this annexation for further study? Okay. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the 3400 East annexation acceptance for further study.
Second.
Motion made by Councilwoman Beck, seconded by Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That passes. Okay, to item B, Resolution 22-01, amending campground fees.
Can I make a motion before he comes up?
Before he comes up? No.
A motion to
Campground
adjourn, is
fees.
that what you said?
No. This one's one of the easiest ones that you've had to present in a long time.
Yeah, it really is. And normally we don't present these, right? Most of the time, we'll make our fee changes during a budget revision. This one, however, is long overdue, and we're getting ready to start a new season. You guys probably read the staff report that Bart Morrill wrote. One of the things that I do need to clarify is, because our current rate right now is $25 and has been for 2 or 3 years. So that's an oversight on us, because the budget, I think, says 15 for an RV site.
And we're proposing, and Bart did a really good job of coming up with comps here and showing you the study that he did in terms of prices. Our main concern, especially with Canyon View, and these fees are to be applied to Canyon View Park and to the gun club. The RV park, the RV facilities that we have at the fairgrounds are going to be left the way they are. They're really event driven. The issues that we're having at Canyon View Park are people wanting to homestead there. And so we're starting to get a lot of junk and a lot of riffraff and a lot of tough things going. In fact, we do have a 14-day limit. And so what they do is they bounce back and forth between us and Linden because we're the cheapest. That's kind of where they live. But we're having a lot of issues with that, as well as we've fallen way behind the market in terms of our rate. So the proposal is to raise the RV campsites from $25 to $40, and then the campsites as well, a single campsite to go to 15 and 20. Any questions on that? It's really pretty straightforward and simple.
Sounds like Shane wants to pass it. We might as well pass it.
Thank you, Bart.
Yeah, Bart did a good job. I mean, he did a good job. We're undercutting the public sector or private sector significantly.
Right.
We need to compete.
Yeah, well said.
Looks good.
I like it.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Dale.
Dale.
Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate it.
I kind of wanted just to say that.
You just want to say that?
Even if I had nothing, I
You're
would
not
come up and
used to
say,
saying
hey,
that.
Mr. Mayor.
It'll take you
So I have to
a
call
long-
you Mr. now, don't I?
Yeah.
Heavy on the Mr.
Okay, any other questions for Dale? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion to approve Resolution 22-01, amending campground fees.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Argyle, seconded by Councilman Marshall. This is a roll call vote. Any discussion on that? Okay, Councilman Gordon?
Aye.
Councilman Argyle?
Aye.
Councilman Marshall?
Aye.
Councilwoman Beck?
Aye.
That passes. Okay, next, item C, Resolution 22-2, approving amendments to the Spanish Fork City Employee Personnel Policy. Tyler,
I was hoping Shane would say the same thing he did on the last.
No way, you got some explaining to do.
Oh, man.
You get one per council meeting, and that was it.
Okay. I'll try and go first next time. Just a couple updates that we're recommending to the personnel policy manual. The first one has to do with the policy manual itself and the general provisions at the beginning. Right now, the way it's written, it sounds like that I don't have to follow the policy. I don't know how this ever happened, but I'm grateful that we review the policy. Nick actually pointed this out as we were reviewing it in one of our meetings. And so we would take out a word. It says the policies and procedures described are not conditions of employment. We'd remove the word not from that. So that's one update that we're recommending. The next update is to reporting dangerous conditions. Right now, the reporting process as it's outlined in the policy manual is pretty bureaucratic, and if you see an issue that needs immediate attention, you're supposed to report it on a form online, whereas some of these things that need immediate attention, I can just go and take care of it immediately and fix the problem, and so we're taking out some language that currently requires employees to file a report before they fix something. And then the last update has to do with what Vaughn presented earlier in regards to the changing the treasurer and recorder positions to being no longer at will, even though they are appointed. So any questions on any of those three items?
So we just kind of, as we look at these and they pop up, is when we review
Yeah,
them,
I mean,
right?
I'm
It's not like
grateful.
there's a real manual that anyone's sitting there looking at. It's just as
Well,
things pop up.
periodically we do review it. So Kim Hall, our HR director, goes through it periodically. Chris Thompson goes through it in his meetings with his employees. In fact, that second update
with the immediate action forms. He's the one that pointed that out. So
Okay.
we've got a lot of eyes looking at it. We try to review these often.
Seth had your job before you. He didn't catch it, huh? I missed this one.
That's too bad.
Strike three is the mayor.
Seth turned out pretty dang good. So I'll
Let me just clarify something that Tyler said a few moments ago. That he didn't know why this was there. I do. And it's just, that first change is a function of a changing legal mindset from 20 years ago. There was a mindset that the employee handbook could be construed as a contract, and then we were bound to things that we weren't really expecting ourselves to be bound to. And so the liability providers wanted us to have specific language that didn't bind us in a way we didn't want to be bound. But you reviewed that, I think, with Irma, and they're like, no, that's stupid, let's change that. So, every 20 years or so, you get different legal opinions and you move forward. So that's why it was that way.
Thanks, Seth.
It's good to see our city manager
20 years
not
ago was
competitive
before
at
Seth
all.
was here, though. So
Yeah, it was before. Yeah. Thanks, Tyler. Any questions for Tyler on this? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve resolution 22-02, approving amendments to the Spanish Fork City Employee Personnel Policy.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Argyle, seconded by Councilman Gordon. This is a roll call vote. Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
Councilman Marshall.
Aye.
Councilwoman Beck.
Aye.
That passes. Okay, we did D, so we're skipping to E under new business. Wasatch Pallet Railroad Spur Change Order Number 2.
Okay, in building a railroad spur, there's the part that's kind of outside the railroad right of way, which our contractor builds. And then there's the part inside the railroad right of way that Union Pacific says they have to do all the work on. They don't really trust our contractor to be in their right of way. And as the railroad got going on their part of it, they pointed out that we were supposed to supply the ballast for their part, which we didn't know. And so we asked our contractor to add that into his contract as a change order. It comes to about a little less than $10,000 for 300 ton of ballast. That's just the heavy rock that they put in. A lot of times they use slag or whatever.
You did not know that.
No, I did, but yeah.
He's a road guy.
That's true. I apologize.
I'm glad you said it,
I
'cause I was
apologize.
gonna ask. I'm
I
like,
had
the
no
boat,
idea.
ballast, I have ballast in the back of the boat. Now we're,
Just, I was worried you would think that.
thank you, you
so.
saw.
One of
He
my
took his glasses
projects-
off. Oh.
Yeah, one of my projects up north, abandoned rail tracks. We had to fillet off the old ballast material because it was covered with the rail, shavings over all those years, fillet it back and put the base for the new trail.
So filleting, fishing?
That's just kind of like one of those terms
He
that
made-
I just made up.
I use it all the time.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Chris. Anything else for Chris?
No, I don't think so.
I'll ask after the motion.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to approve the Wasatch Pallet Railroad Spur Change Order Number 2.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Gordon, seconded by Councilwoman Beck. Any discussion on the motion?
No.
Okay. This is just all in favor, okay? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
So this was a $9,500 change order. Is there a limit that we could not have to review a $9,500
Right?
change
You
order?
just have to bring this one to us.
So right now, it's 10% or $10,000, whichever is less. And so.
This was less than,
But it's change order number 2, so it's all the change orders added up. So that's why.
any change order on this project from now on,
Any project.
it comes here.
Yeah. Yeah, even small ones. So you and Brandon.
I would.
We made a change to this back when? 7 years ago? 6?
Probably 6 years ago.
Yeah. And I believe it was Richard really pushed for that, saying,
You wanted more oversight?
he wanted more oversight, if I recall. Am I speaking incorrectly?
We can, if you want us to propose some different changes, we can look at what would be a good number that we'd be comfortable with.
I would recommend they do that. I have full faith that Chris can manage a $9,000 change order.
Do you have a number that like is
You want
an
it to go
accurate?
up or down?
I do, up, Chad, yes. Thanks for the clarification, appreciate that.
Like the 10% of a job seems like if we change order at a range 10%, that seems like a good figure that we should be able to see.
It's $1
You should-
million.
So if
Yeah,
it's a
140,000.
change order on the sewer plant that's $90 million, that's $90 million.
What I'm saying, would we want to see it? Would we want to see it?
We would want to see that.
You'd want to see 100,000 change order?
I think that'd be
on
fair,
this?
yeah. I think a 10% one would be fine, anything below that.
I do still think you have the lower number, to Chad's argument, whether it's,
Let's kick around a few options
Yeah.
and bring
All right.
some ideas.
Like to entertain the conversation at the very least.
Okay.
Twice. Not that we don't like hearing from you either, Chris.
Mayor Lifeson's home going, what?
He's not watching, so.
Okay, so we approved E.
F.
We already approved F.
Yep.
So we're skipping to G. Ordinance 02-22, repealing Title 7, subsection SFMC, 728-120, Finance Committee. Reading through this sounds like an
We
old
had one, we don't need it anymore.
relic, yeah.
That's
Is that about it?
You want me to present that? That's it.
I read the memo. Basically, you had a finance committee that was not made up of elected officials, right? That could look at finances and everything, and we've decided that we should be looking at our finances and the budget, and we're the elected body to do it. And so that's still in our policy, and we're removing it from the policy. Okay.
Vaughn,
Sounds like you took.
good job.
That was the best description.
That was a good 4 sentences.
Yeah, I should have read it. I could have read it, yeah.
I move to approve ordinance 02-22, repealing Title 7, subsection SFMC 7.28.120, Finance Committee.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Gordon, seconded by Councilwoman Beck. This is, any discussion on that motion? This is a roll call vote. Councilman Marshall.
Aye.
Councilwoman Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
That passes. Okay, item H, ordinance 322, amending section 3890 of the Spanish Fork Municipal Code, disposal or lease of public property.
So Mayor and Council, this ordinance deals with the disposal of a significant parcel of real property. There's a section of the state code that requires us to define what a significant parcel is and also what reasonable notice of that public hearing before you dispose of it is. Recently, the trend has been in the state code to remove newspaper notice, but our ordinance still required that. And so what we're trying to do is delete that and to just have a reasonable notice, be 14 days notice posted on the property prior to holding a public hearing on a proposed disposition of a parcel of real property. We feel like that's the minimum that the state requires, and it complies with the statute, but it lets us to be a little more flexible and nimble as we try to advertise parcels for sale.
So the only place it would be noticed is on the property.
Right.
So if someone doesn't live nearby, they probably won't.
Yeah.
know it. Okay.
Or it could be, if we're trying to sell it, we could list it or do it at any other number of things, but this is what is required, the
Okay.
minimum requirement that we'd have to do.
Perfect. Thanks, Vaughn. Any other questions for Vaughn about disposing of public property? I would entertain a motion, if not.
I move to approve ordinance 322, amending section 3890 of the Spanish Fork Municipal Code, disposal or lease of public property.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Beck, seconded by Councilman Gordon. This is a roll call vote. Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
Councilman Marshall.
Aye.
Councilwoman Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
That passes.
That was a
Just,
really good clarifying question, though. I like we set the minimum, but we're not so short-sighted that we're not gonna try to maximize our,
Right, yeah,
our resale value.
Depending on the piece of property, we would put it on this different sites that advertise those types of properties. So.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect, yeah.
So, going back in the fact that we're trying to do away with the newspaper, when I spent a large part of my childhood with 3 paper routes trying to get the information to Spanish Fork City, dodging the rats from the mill right here on Main Street as you'd come down it, and now there's very little. I don't think anybody takes a newspaper. I think there's a few olders that still do, but
I know 2 people that do.
that take it. Is it in the mail?
I don't know.
And I can tell you if they do, they're not going to page D25 to find the notice for public property anymore.
There was
website for that.
my sister-in-law used to read the newspaper from front to back, and it always amazed me. And every story front to back, she would. And it was she always knew everything that was going on. I mean, and I just read the comics and maybe the front page.
Anything above the goal.
And then the only challenge was on Black Friday to get out and get a newspaper before everybody else got them, because they were this thick.
You want to know what's going on now? I just go to State Councilwoman Beck's Facebook page.
There you go. Thanks.
Okay, let's see, item I, ordinance 422, amending section 728-160 of the Spanish Fork Municipal Code, having to do with the Fiesta Days Committee.
Just one of the best committees in the city, just want to say.
Agreed. Here, here.
So this ordinance is to make our practice and our ordinance match. So there's been some discrepancies there. We call it, instead of the Fiesta Days Committee, the Fiesta Days Executive Committee, and it consists of 10 members rather than 6 that is identified in the code. And so this ordinance would make those changes, make our actual practice, and allow those 6 members of the committee to be 3 couples, which is also what we currently do, who may jointly serve as a chair, chair-elect, or past chair. And so hopefully this ordinance will bring that into conformity. Any questions on those changes to the ordinance?
Looks good.
Oh, I should also mention that the Assistant Parks and Recreation Director is on there, and also the Special Events Supervisor for the city, so clarify those titles.
Did you all have a boring December and sat around reading policies and trying to figure out what to change? Is that the December you all had?
Christmas break.
That's what I was wondering, I'm like, they just
It was a very productive administrative December. Yes.
Vaughn was busy.
He had an assignment, that's what.
Thank you, Vaughn, for that. And any questions, any further questions or discussion about this ordinance? Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion.
I feel like I should approve it, but I've been approving so many things, but it's
You're
mine, so
supposed
I
to do
better.
this one, yeah.
Disapprove this one.
Okay. Disapprove? I move to approve ordinance 422, amending section 728-160 of the Spanish Fork Municipal Code Fiesta Day Committee.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Beck, seconded by Councilman Argyle. This is a roll call vote. Councilwoman Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
Councilman Marshall.
Aye.
Thank you. That passes.
Is Jay ready or table it?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Item J, the settlement contract with South Utah Valley Electric Service District. Seth
Yeah, and
Prince.
I'll draw your attention maybe to the motion, the language of the motion. There are a handful of exhibits that we need to finish. I will say, actually, all of the exhibits are approved between the two parties. We just need the attorneys to get the work done. That's really what was the challenge for today. I'm going to actually ask you, what information do you want on this? I feel like you've spent a lot of time on this, so we've reviewed this in multiple closed sessions as well. So anything we approve, anything we discuss that has some kind of a direction in a closed session eventually needs to be reviewed and not in closed session. So this item is here today for that public review. I don't necessarily need to go through all the details if you don't want me to. But this is the culmination of about 8 months of significant diligent work by Spanish Fork City and the South Utah Valley Electric Service District regarding some disputes between us, the two groups. And the discussions have been in earnest, and although taken a long time, it's certainly been a lot of discussion. Really, though, this is the culmination of about a 4-year dispute. This started January 30th of 2018, so the dispute is almost 4 years old now. And so we're pretty excited to have this before you, and maybe to be brief, this settlement agreement provides a path for Spanish Fork City Power and Light to provide electric service to all newly annexed areas. The dispute has been focused on a service district that exerted a right to serve these areas despite their municipal boundary, and our assertion of our right to serve municipal services to an area after they annex. And there have been legal wranglings, a recent Supreme Court ruling that affirmed the right and responsibility of cities to provide this municipal service, but at the same time, there is a buyout process that we can follow, and this provides clarity to that buyout process. The contract gives us 3 years, I guess 2.5 years of runway to work through the details of this contract. Work through the terms of this contract. July 1 of 2024, we'll either need to have a new contract, or there are some Supreme Court cases that will be reviewed, and they might give us some direction there too. But this gives us 2.5 years of clarity, and again, both parties have reviewed it. Both parties are in agreement to the terms of the exhibits. We just have a couple of exhibits that aren't included in this that the attorneys need to have finalized. But to be quite candid, those are the details that you and I don't probably care about, like pole number and whatnot. But Jake is reviewing those to the degree that you want. He knows every pole and transformer that's coming in and going as a part of this transaction. So,
Two questions.
Please.
So I guess that the first one is, so we identified those places that are in our area not being served, and we are working on that to solve those. You had identified them. It seemed like there was 22 for some reason.
Will you ask that again?
The homes or areas that are in our city limits now and not being served by us.
Okay, yes, 35.
35.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, and so those 35, some of them have a green, this must not mean anything, but they have green highlighted. Is that something unique that we need to get done or something like that, of those 35?
Yeah, which attachment are you on? The map?
Yeah, let's see. I don't know, it's not the map. It's the
second one, isn't it?
It's the transfer facilities and consumer report thing. And then just down to page, and I'm sorry, it's just page like 6, but it names those. It does, there's 56, 51 on them, but some of them are green, so I didn't know if that meant there was a reason. I don't know if that was something specific or not that it mattered.
Good catch.
Just green.
Just green, yeah.
Just green,
That would have
okay.
just been some kind of a...
So is Jake working, are we working on those 35 properties?
Absolutely, yeah. So the contract requires that we serve those 35 customers within a year with a 180-day extension. So,
We're not done.
yeah, for all intents and purposes, we have a year and a half to get to serving all 35 of those. We hope through Jake's plans in the Power and Light Department or division, we hope to have all of those 35 customers on our system within 9 months, which that sounds like why would it take so long? But it's not like 35 customers here, right? I think it's spread out over 20 different areas of town. So the lion's share will come in a few areas, but there's one customer here and one customer there, and so it'll take a little bit of time to get some infrastructure to some of those locations. So currently Jake's plan estimates 9 months, which is good because in this current climate, can you predict everything right? And so he's got a good plan, and then there is time if we run into any problems that we can get to those as well.
Questions? Any other questions?
No, I think this was, we do so much talking about things like this, just like the county one, that we all are totally up to speed and the public has no idea.
For sure.
I don't know how to do a better job of explaining
Yeah.
this point, what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
I was about to ask you what are the top 3 things that if your neighbor asked you what this is about, what would you say?
It's from 1996.
Four score 7 years ago. Say top or 3 things that are significant that this accomplishes.
Yep.
Frankly, the top one that isn't necessarily in the contract is the fact that it resolves a legal battle that between 3 cities is 4 years long and $1 million of expenses.
Okay.
And all we're doing is arguing over, can we provide power there or can you? And so it's really it's a tragedy, I think, that 2 government entities are arguing over that. But there is a significant purpose that the city feels, and you, the direction as a mayor and council, that as the city of Spanish Fork, we provide this utility. And we want to make sure that this resident on this side of the street has the same providers as the resident on that side of the street, and that they have the same standing. So if this customer has a problem with power, they could come to you for relief on that challenge. But if this customer is provided service by some other entity, they come to you and say, sorry, go talk to somebody else. You elected us, everybody else is represented by us for this issue, but you're not, in a way, a second-class citizen on this issue. So this provides relief to that issue. It stops the litigation for us. It stops the expense of that litigation. And we can actually put the funds that we've been spending on attorneys toward resolving the conflict and doing what we should be doing, providing that power. So that's probably the top one. And then the second one is that it provides clarity for us. When we do an annexation in the past, so going back 20 years, we would look at each other and say, well, there's a process that we follow, but it's pretty nebulous, and we don't know how long it will take. We're just going to try our best. And this gives shot clocks and specific dollar amounts, and so it's very clear. And clarity will save everybody time and money. And then I'd probably punt the third one because those two are
top
good
2 are
enough.
pretty
Yeah.
big. Yeah.
I'd have to add that I think it's improved our relationship with them.
Oh, yeah, that is actually quite important.
Yes.
Quite important. And I'll agree with you
We
100%.
need them at times, and they need us at times, and we need.
Yeah, and when you sit in a room of ourselves and we talk about somebody that we don't know, it's really easy to get into a group conversation where you'd say, I don't like somebody. And we all agree, and now we don't like somebody. And we have had a concerted effort in our relationship with this other group and have had good conversations, hard conversations, productive conversations, and I think the mantra that we've put forward over the last 8 months is, let's stop arguing. Let's break bread together and come together. And at the end of the day, we're all just good people. Why are we arguing so much? And it's because we're not talking about the challenges that we have. We're just quickly saying, well, that must just be the way they are. So instead of that, we're bringing up issues and talking through them. And Jake and Brooke, their SASD's Jake, they're talking a lot more than their predecessors ever did, and nothing bad to those guys, but they just didn't have that conduit, that conversation conduit. And so improved relations is great. And so that's my third.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
Seth,
you.
and staff for taking care of it. It's been long and messy and time-consuming,
Yeah.
and we finally got to a good outcome.
Yeah. They approved this sometime in December, so it wasn't ready for our December council meeting. Their board meeting was a few days after that, and I think, so they've already approved this. Mayor Leifson's done a lot of work on this. So I think I heard him talking to you, Mayor, about this, that even though he's not the mayor when this is approved and signed, I think we're gonna just ceremonially make him sign it. So that even though that signature isn't legally required for the document to be fully executed, his name's on there anyway. And I don't think it adds any weight to it, but and in the annals of time, people will maybe say, well, why is that there? And we'll just have him put his mayoral term or something, and that way his mark's there too, because of the time, 4 years, like I said, and he and I, 2018, we spent a lot of time together up on the hill, so that's this issue.
Excited for the bandwidth. You only have so much bandwidth, and this took a lot of it, so the bandwidth that's going to be had by Seth, specifically our staff, is a good thing.
That's some of the downside of having to discuss this where we had to discuss it, right? Like, there was a huge amount of effort put into this, and well-deserved credit needs to happen, and we don't talk about it enough tonight. But yeah, so
Amen.
They're sitting at home thanking us for not talking about it longer.
they might be, but
If they're still watching.
Yeah.
Okay.
8 of them were like, just move on.
Well, this is a big one. This is a big one. Item
Yeah.
J, under new business section, and this is a big one to authorize the mayor to sign this settlement contract. So, anybody that wants to make that motion, I would entertain it.
Motion to approve settlement contract with South Utah Valley Electric Service District.
You need all of that, Vaughn?
That's good, yeah.
Okay.
Enough.
That's fine.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Argyle and seconded by Councilman Marshall, and this is a roll call vote. Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
Councilman Marshall.
Aye.
Councilwoman Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Passes, and I'll add my aye to it, even though it doesn't. That's adding his aye as well. Thanks. Under 10, item A, under number 10, discussion staffing plans for community development. Dave Anderson.
If this PowerPoint is under 20 slides, sit down.
What's the over/under on it?
It's a new era. If you guys want PowerPoint presentations that are over 20 slides, is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay. All right.
How quickly
is our max?
Shane the one asking for things to move fast now?
I know.
It was
It
like
did
yesterday.
feel weird, huh?
Yeah, that was wrong.
Yeah. All right, sorry. Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
Under 20 slides, Dave.
Thank you. It has been an eventful day. It's almost 9 o'clock, and the last thing anybody wants, I know, is a presentation with a bunch of words. So I'm going to start by apologizing.
That's not going to help.
I am sorry. But having spent a few days trying to come up with a different way, it's not there. It is not there.
No videos or pictures?
No videos or pictures. Hopefully, once we get rolling here, maybe the pace will make up for that a little bit. And with that being said, I am looking for, hopefully, some fairly specific direction tonight. Relative to what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to start, and I'm going to leave it fairly broad and somewhat high level. I think we'll get into enough detail, hopefully, for you to feel like you can provide the direction that I'm looking for. That being said, please ask whatever questions you have. I'm happy to go as deep as you want, but like I said, I know it's almost 9 o'clock, and that's where we're at. The Community Development Department is relatively small. We don't have a lot of employees. We've worked hard to keep it that way. That being said, we do, I believe, have a need to make some changes. So to start with that, we'll talk about the needs, and again, kind of keeping this kind of high level. There we go. Okay. Touched on 6 different things here. We need to provide better service. We can provide better service to the development community, which is a big part of our clientele. We do other things besides review development projects and work with developers, but that really is a big part of our workload, and there are some things that we can do that really revolve around communicating, memorializing conversations, and keeping developers more consistently abreast of what we expect of them, that can make the process easier for them to navigate and ultimately ensure that Spanish Fork City gets what we want in the end. In other words, there are times when I think things do slip through the cracks today, and we need to fix that. We also, in terms of communication, have a real need to communicate differently with Spanish Fork City, with the community as a whole, with neighborhoods. We need to engage the community differently. We need to provide information to the community differently. And I think that's a really significant need that we have. I think Spanish Fork residents are very concerned about how the community changes, what the city as an organization's plans are for change. And we have opportunities, I think, to help the community feel more comfortable with the way things are changing and with the city's plans to deal with change by upping our game in terms of how we engage the community and communicate with them.
How many people do you have to do that right now? Like, do you have a person that's dedicated to that, or is it just a shared responsibility between you and your staff?
It's a fraction of a couple of people.
Yeah.
We have a need, and we have some great opportunities to develop different and better relationships with local businesses. Over the years, we've been hit and miss in terms of having strong enough relationships that when a particular issue comes up, we can call a plant manager and we know one another on a first name basis, just as an example of the type of relationship that we want to have with local businesses as the business community continues to grow and as they continue to deal with things including how Spanish Fork City changes. I think this becomes that much more important, and I consider that to be a very significant need for us today. Now to kind of shift, I guess, towards some of the opportunities that we have to capitalize on economic development, again, to say opportunities that come along. The windows of time that we have to work within when we do receive requests from the outside world about the community, the properties in Spanish Fork, and our ability to serve different types of facilities and operations and that type of a thing, they've gone from typically being over a week to being less than a couple of days. And being able to respond more quickly simply requires more manpower, and that's ultimately what I'll get to here in a minute. But that really has become a need that's become very acute here in the last few years. And part of that is us as a department maintaining certain pieces of data that I don't think any of you would necessarily find to be particularly earth-shattering, but having good databases requires effort, it requires time, and having that at our fingertips makes a lot of the other things that I've brought up already much easier to do. The last thing, we just today tallied the building permits that we issued for 2021. I thought it was going to be the biggest year ever, and it wasn't. 622 building permits for new homes. Now that's up from 424 in 2020. So that is a significant step up to 2021. Something like a 30% increase from the previous year. Back in 2006, we hit 661, so that still is the high water year for us, but even though we have been able to add building inspector time in recent years, we need to be able to use their time more efficiently, and that's one of the needs that I'll explain a little bit more here in just a minute. So, in an effort to address those particular needs, this is what I'm proposing, and this is what I would like to get your feedback and direction on tonight. First of all, we would create a new position in the planning division, so that's the office that you see me working in, of the community development department. We have created a job description for that, and their primary reasons for existing would involve improving their ability to communicate and engage the community and to help with their economic development efforts, again speaking somewhat broadly. The second thing that we would do is change an existing position that we have in the community development office by replacing that position, which right now is, so getting the semantics a little bit, right now it is a department secretary position. We would replace that with a division secretary position. Department secretary duties are more intricate, and they have more responsibility than division secretary positions. So in that regard, we'd be taking a step down, so to speak, in terms of qualifications. But yes, relative to what that would do for the planning division is it would result in there being one new employee in that division. Then in the building inspection division, which is the other community development office, we would be replacing an existing division secretary position with a building permit technician position. This position here would be a new position for the city. We've created a job description for that. In layman's terms, I would call that clerical help with some technical expertise that can perform some of the more routine duties that otherwise building inspectors would perform. So they would have certain administrative and clerical duties, but in addition to that, they would be trained to be able to do some things that otherwise would require time from our building inspectors. I also note that right now, the position that we have is a part-time position, and this would change that to a full-time position, providing some additional hours for that particular division.
Overall, I'd say 1.5 FTE.
Yeah, this is how I look at it. So right now, the proposal is to replace 2 existing positions and to add 1 new position for a total of 3 employees in place of where right now we have 2. Does that make sense?
So it's 1.
So it's barely over 1 in terms of the increase. A little bit over is because one of the positions right now is a part-time position. In terms of fiscal impact, and where I'm going with this is to ask that you let us go ahead and act now to start to advertise for one of these positions, the one that we don't expect to fill in-house, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment, with the idea then that when you review and approve the February budget revision, we're ready to go then with these different changes that I'm talking about now. We'd like to get a little bit ahead of that process. So first of all, for the remaining part of the 2022 budget, we think creating the new Community Relations and Development Coordination Manager position. It's a lot to say, but that's what we're talking about in the planning division to try to address some of those critical needs that we have. Altogether, that would be about a $42,000 cost to the city. We would not expend the funds that we have planned entirely right now with the department secretary position, the existing position that would be replaced with the division secretary, because frankly, this labor is less expensive than that. So there'd be some savings there from a budget perspective. Spitballing to some extent, about a $6,000 break there over the remaining part of the 2022 budget year. And turning the existing division secretary position that we have in the building inspection office to a permit technician position, going from part-time to full-time, is estimated to cost about $21,000 if we're able to act on that in February, so for the remaining part of 2022 or this budget year. And then ongoing, and of course this will change over time, but the estimated impact for 2023 for all of these changes is an increase budget-wise of about $110, $112, maybe $1,000 a year.
Is that just strictly salary, or is there anything else in, like, laptops, computers, all the other things coming?
But for some startup costs that we would have with this position here, it's salary. This is expected to be about $2,400. We've got to create a new workspace, new, hardware by way of computer and stuff like that. But this is primarily just, well, no, this is intended to account for everything that would go to accommodate these employees' needs over time.
No vehicles, they're not going out like inspectors?
Nothing of that sort with these positions. Yeah. So that's really where we're at. That is the ask, so to speak. I tend to sell things pretty softly, but genuinely, there's a tremendous need. Fortunately, part of the need comes from the activity that we have in the department, which also generates revenue. So I don't keep as close of track on revenue as I know some other people with the city do. But I keep close enough track as to where we are with building permits and development applications and that type of a thing to know that we're well ahead of the budgeted pace, revenue-wise, which incidentally, I completely acknowledge, doesn't necessarily hold true over time. And adding positions like this, we wouldn't necessarily anticipate a reduction in staff if the workload were to change, but at least conceivably, that need for that continuing expense remains ongoing.
Where would this come from, Dave? This extra money?
It would come from a combination of development, review applications, and building permit applications. Ongoing, yep. Which right now is how the majority of our department is funded. We are funded to a small degree with general fund revenues, but it's primarily those applications.
We've seen an uptick over the last couple of years. Don't go anywhere. We've seen an uptick in those revenues over the last couple of years. So there are sufficient funds to cover these. And maybe give a little bit of background. This is something that Dave began discussing with us in March, April.
Last spring.
Yeah, last spring sometime. And as we discussed it back in the spring for the FY22 budget for the full year, I didn't feel like it was ready to go, and asked him to do some specific things and work through some challenges and questions that I wanted him to flesh out, and I think they've answered all of those questions and done a great job, and so now we're ready to go. The funds are there. We're about 50% of the year in revenue in building permit fees, and only 40% of the year gone, and so we're above pace for revenue and building permit fees, and then in the development fees, actually significantly above. So there's revenue to cover these expenses. I don't have any concerns with that this year or ongoing. And probably the reason for the ongoing, even if we have a downturn in revenue, because this is a service level shift that we're contemplating as we try to make improvements to how we communicate. One of our challenges is developers struggle with how to tackle some relationship challenges with residents. Residents struggle with how to understand the development process. And so we're trying to accomplish a service level shift here, an increase in service level. And so as I review it, I feel like this is a good direction for us to go, because it will improve coordination with the public, who in the end, right now, they have a lot of questions about why can they do that, or why should they do that, and we need to be able to give them better service, and so I'm comfortable moving forward with this as well. To Dave's, one of the asks that Dave has is that we do some of these before the budget revision. We'll have a budget revision, the second meeting in February. We won't go beyond the budget, and so we won't spend any money that we don't have, but we will go beyond the budget if you don't approve it. In February, we'd expend beyond the budget, say May or June, right? And so we have to add funds to the budget. So he's asking to do some things before you formally approve it. So you're if you say, yeah, do those things, you're kind of tying your hands that you're going to approve that, which is why we're also trying to give you all the information that we can. at this point. So I think, yes, Shane.
Why? Why do you want to move before we actually see the budget?
So we wouldn't do anything different in the budget public hearing than we're doing right now. So we're trying to give you all the information that we would give you then. But really, it's just a matter of time. So the need is there for the staff. I was about ready to say the names individually, but the staff to begin doing some things, to begin training on some things, and maybe to ramp up for what we think is going to be a busy spring. And so really, it's just a function of time.
Why not just change the budget today?
Oh, so to change the budget today, we have to open it up. We have to go through a public process, right? The hearing, noticing and things like that. That's a lot of work for this, yeah. So and especially because we're not going to expend beyond the budget. We're just going to encumber ourselves.
Right.
So.
Just encumber ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like Tyler said, fix something or go do all the paperwork and then fix it, you know.
Yeah, what Tyler said.
Exactly. Let's put it on him.
Tyler said it well.
Thanks, Brandon.
That's doing okay.
Tyler, get up. So, yeah,
So
it's
I'm not a huge fan of committing us to some future
For sure.
thing without the right process being followed.
For sure.
That's a little bit of a concern. I understand why you want to do it. What happens if February we say, nope?
then the employees, any changes that we do,
Go back.
we back up, yeah.
So you're not hiring position number one between now and then. You're doing 2 or 3.
They want to post it.
We would.
You would post it, but you're not going to spend
Correct.
any money.
Yeah, the only one would be,
Okay,
I think,
fine.
changes to the part-time position. You would want to start that person full-time sooner than.
All right, so the commitment that you're asking for is not the full 42,000 necessarily.
Correct.
It's going to be somewhere
Yeah.
less.
So, and maybe to preface, this isn't something we have never done before. When we do a July 1 budget, there will be some positions that we'll have, knowing that it will be funded on July 1, but also that you won't approve the budget fully until, say, June 21st. We'll maybe back in May say, are you comfortable as we present it? Are you comfortable that this is good? We'll start advertising and get things lined up so that on July 1 we can start them, whoever that position is. And this is actually the same kind of a thing. If we were doing a tentative budget like we do with the main budget, this would be about that same kind of a time. So it feels like it's weird, and I totally respect that it does, but it's not uncommon or unique in how we've done it in other times.
Dave, I'm surprised you guys have waited this long. You guys have needed some help for, I would say, more than just since last spring. So I'm glad, and I support you guys in this. It's needed.
I certainly appreciate that, and I agree.
If you were to talk to us in private sector life of places we work, then you had a department that goes from, the economic development of Spanish Fork City that, just the numbers alone of, we used to celebrate $1 million in sales tax revenue a year. Now it's almost $1 million a month. The expansion of what people see in Spanish Fork, just of economic development that runs through his department, and not staffing it over that expansion is not something, we're running lean and mean, and it's easily defensible, so. I'm
And I
excited
really
for
wanna-
the public outreach that comes from this.
Which I really want to echo what Seth said, and I think he said it better than I was actually thinking about it as. We really want to take a leap forward in terms of the level of service. That is a big part of what this is about, and I would be kidding myself if I suggested we can do it with the number of people we have right now and the amount of time we have to work with. We just can't.
I think of the 7 needs you put up there, 5 of them were communicating more effectively. Is this a communications professional that you're looking for, number one?
The person that we have in mind for that position has to become that.
Okay.
And it is going to require some growth on their part.
Okay.
But yes.
And they'll coordinate with PIOs.
Okay. I agree with both of you. I think that we can't do enough of that, especially in in the day and age we live in and the way we're growing, we need to do a better job of communicating. We talked about it a couple times even tonight, so I'm fully supportive.
Everybody good?
I appreciate that a lot. I really do. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
Dave.
luck.
That's it? You
Great.
said you had 20 pages.
No, no, no.
He had content for
then I'll
20, he
do
scrolls
two
a bunch of
thumbs
stuff.
Thank you, Dave. That takes us to 10B, Spanish Fork City Mission Statement. Just bringing this up.
I was gonna do it, but I'm gonna give Tyler the opportunity, he's better.
Is that right?
No, Tyler's gonna do it.
The mission statement? I'm happy to do it. Yeah. Here.
I'm happy to do it.
Or Nick. Are you ready, Tyler?
No, I got it.
No, he's not ready to.
All right, Nick's gonna pull something up here. We wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up. Over the past, oh man, it's probably been 6 years. We've been talking about putting together a mission statement. Do you know what our current mission statement is for the city?
Non-existent.
Pride and progress?
Pride and progress.
That's more of our motto. Yeah, tagline.
We don't need one.
What's the motto?
What, mission statement?
Isn't that our mission statement? We don't need one.
Right now it might be. And
Men walk through rivers and never the same one twice.
Ooh, that's good.
Something like that.
I heard that earlier, yeah.
I think that's
Yeah,
a
you're
good.
done,
I think it's a good
Tyler.
start. All right, Nick.
You got yours. You can drive.
So when I worked at a bank here in Spanish Fork City, actually with the mayor for a little while, I remember that they had a specific mission, and they had us memorize their mission statement, and we got $100 for doing it. So I did it first day. I was a lowly teller. Not that if there's tellers listening to this, not that you're lowly, but it was. What's that?
How long was it?
It was maybe a paragraph long. I don't know.
$50 if you can do it right now.
Are you being serious? Okay, I actually can't do it right now.
Come on!
I got a little bit nervous.
The gist of it was that the importance of our customers, and that really stuck with me for I think I worked there for 3 years that I was there, and it was, you would talk to employees and you could tell that was their focus, and the customers could feel it. So when I started as assistant city manager, I brought this idea up to Seth of putting together a mission statement. And I thought it would be as simple as, let's come up with a recommendation and let's run with it. And in listening to, if you guys have listened to Stephen R. Covey and his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of the things he talks about in there is a mission statement. And he recommends that you take anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half to develop a mission statement. So as we've been trying to figure out how do we come up with something that's going to withstand the test of time, Liz Lund, who just recently left us, she was one of our management interns. She left because she's having a baby, but she and Ashlyn, our executive secretary, have put together some ideas on how we can go about establishing a mission statement that will withstand the test of time. One of the things that they brought up is Tesla has a mission statement, not to specifically talk about certain companies, but theirs is this simple. Tesla's mission is to accelerate the world's transition to a sustainable energy. And if we could come up with something for Spanish Fork City that would truly encompass, why we exist. That's one of the big things about a mission statement is why do we even exist? And then what do we provide and who do we provide it to? I think that would go a long way. So we've outlined a timeline on here. Our initial focus group we plan to start with this next month, pending your direction on this, and then you can see. The timeline looks to be a little bit long. Implementing this in September 23, But the reason for that is to try to get it into the hearts of the employees, and then hopefully that resonates with not only the employees, but then beyond that to our residents here in the city. So I don't know how deep we want to get into this today, Seth. How deep do you want me to go?
I think,
Is that good there?
yeah, I think what we want is that you're supportive, if you're supportive of the concept and you need more information, let's give it whatever you need, or if you're fine, you just want to make sure we're not doing something that you say why.
We don't,
and you're not
yeah.
supportive of it.
We don't want to use time unwisely. We want to make sure that we're doing things with a purpose and that would be meaningful, and you know, kind of go along with what Mayor Mendenhall started the meeting with, inspiring people to be better, and so we'd love your feedback.
I have, I guess, a question. It just seems
Yeah.
like if you're having 15 to 20 individuals over a 12-month period,
Mhm.
but we want to keep it short so it's impactful and memorable. Does that seem long? Does that make sense? Like, if you get that many people together, can they still be concise and coming up with something short and impactful, or will it be like,
So I think the idea is at the beginning, it's just more like a brainstorming session where there's all of these different ideas that are thrown out, and there's different ideas on what is the city, what is our purpose, why do we exist, all those things, and then taking those things and making it into something that is concise. So these groups would answer a number of questions to help us really identify who we are.
yeah.
And then we would take that and we would whittle it down to
I
more
love
of a
the
concise
idea. I
statement.
think it's a great idea. I think it's,
And we don't
Neither.
have one anywhere. I asked that once.
Not besides the ones that we just made up in this meeting. So,
Feed them lunch, 12 meetings once a month.
Yeah, that's really the only expense I think we'll have
Yeah.
for the short move. I mean, there might be some implementation stuff later we want to do. We'll see what happens.
good luck. Go team.
you guys good with that? Keep pressing forward with that? Okay.
I like it.
Mason
Great.
has one, Springville has one, Provo.
Are you
does.
serious? You found them?
Yeah.
Okay, it's on.
Well, I'm just
We've got to make ours better.
'Cause,
So,
So one thing I'll say with the generations as they come into the workforce, the younger generations really look for something that describes why. Older generations, as they get towards retirement in the workforce today, they didn't care. Like, why do I come to work? So, you know, that's what we do. And so this gives us the ability to really do something that, frankly, I think our new employees that are coming into our workforce are looking for. They flock to Spanish work because of what we do, but if you were to ask them, why do you do it? You'd have a bunch of different answers, most of which would probably synthesize close together, but they'd be kind of haphazard. So let's give them something that they can really rally around that describes why they do what they do. And I'm comfortable with the timetable. I think I originally thought 6 months, and when Ashlyn and Liz were reviewing the timetable, we all kind of opened our eyes to, okay, let's get the information, let's involve as many people as we can, and then make sure that it has their flavoring, and then give them, you know, that synthesized short statement that hopefully speaks to most people.
So having been through this from nothing to something, it's 12 months.
Yeah.
It's that many people. And you start big, and it's the hardest part is getting it small.
Right.
By far. Taking out words that someone in legal has to have, or someone in admin has to have, is really difficult. When we started, I'm like, ugh. A mission, vision, really, seriously? But once you're done and you've gone through it all, and you can ask somebody, what's our mission? And they're like, boom, this is what we do, and this is why we do it. It's pretty powerful. So I worked at a place that had one, I work at a place that doesn't, and there's a difference. Having one's better.
That's good to hear.
I remember a couple of leaders while I was working for AT&T who come in and took over leadership, and this was the first thing they did before they did anything. They put out a mission statement, their goals, and I still remember some of them to this day, and what the change in the culture did just because of a few sentences that says this is what we do every single day. And there are some of them that are gone. They're no longer even being used, but I still remember those.
That's awesome to hear. I'm
Made
glad
it.
to hear that it should be a positive thing.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well, the point of currently a tight labor market, and does it always say a tight labor market? But I read a study the other day that closely behind number one of upward more mobility and more pay is this generation of employee is why they're choosing places to work, of why more quality of life rather than quantity of life. How much money do I have to buy things? Nope. What's my quality of the of the
What's
place
my
I work?
purpose? What's
Yeah.
my
So it's good.
Cool.
Good thing we get some.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tyler. Hey, before Councilman Gordon takes us into closed session, I meant to just do this really quick earlier, but it goes to what we all do besides the Tuesday meetings that we come here for. But every 2 years, the mayor gets to assign council members their duties, their committees and commissions that they sit on. And so that 2-year period came up obviously with the change here. And so I really quick just wanted to read through what each council member sits on their committee, just so you know that this is what they're coming back and reporting on. We've went over these with them already, and they all agreed. And if they didn't, I told the chief to go visit them, and then they agreed, so it's good. But let me just start with Councilman Gordon is going to serve for the next 2 years on the RAP committee, which is a great new committee we have to review applications. Yeah, he's not going to rap, but the Recreation, Arts, and Parks Committee is going to help us get through the applications for that every year. The South Utah Valley Solid Waste District, he's served us well on there, is continuing there. The Utah State Water Quality Board, a commission that he serves on at the governor's request. The new governor didn't fire you, he kept you on there. Okay, all right. The Risk Management Committee and the Personnel Committee is what the committees that Brandon's on. Councilwoman Beck is the Mayor Pro Tem. She's still in the Fiesta Days Committee. She's on the Library Board still. She's on Miss Spanish Fork pageant. And she is going to sit with us on the ULCT, the Utah League of Cities and Towns Legislative Policy Committee as well. So, good luck. Councilman Argyle, the Rotary Club. He'll visit the Rotary Club and report back what they're doing for us. He'll still stay on the Veterans Council, SUVMWA, South Utah Valley Municipal Water Agency. So he talks about water quite a bit. Wastewater Treatment Plant Advisory Committee, and the Youth City Council. So that historian will be able to impart some wisdom to the Youth City Council. So we're excited about that. Councilman Marshall will be on the Airport Board. He's already been on there, right? The Arts Council remaining on there. I don't know why they both liked him, but they liked him. So they
Met one time. That's very high.
Yeah.
He showed up.
We're adding him with Dale to the Parks and Rec Committee, so he'll get chewed up and spit out by the Parks and Rec guys, which is a good organization. The Utah Lake Commission and the Risk Management Committee. And Kevin, you know, if you don't show up, this is what you get. No, just kidding. I had this conversation with him, and he was happy about all these. Councilman Euler is gonna sit on the Seniors Board for us, the Spanish Fork Chamber of Commerce, the Mount Nebo Water Agency, the South Utah Valley Animal Services Special Service District, and the Personnel Committee. So those are the assignments for the next couple of years. We're excited to see the council in action and taking care of those committees for us. So.
Where is the animal shelter?
Kevin.
Is that Kevin?
Kevin's on the animal shelter.
He's got a meeting next week.
We better, make sure.
Also.
Yeah. So that's
If
something.
there's any meetings you're switching, we'll let them know. I'll let Kevin also know about Mount Nebo Water.
Perfect. Yeah, forward those on to maybe put Nick in the loop.
Youth? Who was on youth?
Youth City Council was,
So you'll have chat.
Stacy was there, so she'll get you that stuff. Yep. Okay.
I move we
Anything
go
else?
into closed session for land transaction, reasonably imminent litigation, the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual.
Second?
Motion to go into closed session by Councilman Gordon, seconded by Councilman Argyle. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
That's a roll call vote, sorry.
Oh, it is a, sorry, yeah, I should have got that. Roll call vote, Councilwoman Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Argyle. Aye. And Councilman Marshall.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you. And thank you, Tara.
Thank you.